Opposed? No one's opposed, I don't think. So rise to the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag. United States of America.
United States of America. To the republic for which it stands,
Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Yes. Yeah, I want to begin with the presentations tonight, which is the reopening of school plans for this year. And I believe we're going to start with James.
We are. And just before we start, I just want to recommend to the board that we have to make a couple of decisions tonight. One of the decisions, since there are options for parents, parents can opt in all schools for the opt-out model. They don't feel the school might be safe for their child. And there's also a version of the in-person model. It's different in the elementary school, middle school, and high school, kind of similar. We're going to have to make a decision in terms of when parents make a commitment to their what they think is best for their child. We have to decide what the commitment period is. So I know on the table, perhaps maybe it's to the end of the first semester. Maybe that's approximately in the high school, middle school would be 10 weeks. And at the elementary school, because we're on trimesters, would be about 13 weeks. So that's something to consider while we're listening to the plans, if you can think of that.
Because we had talked about 5 weeks, but that's maybe, it's evolving, the plan's evolving as we go. So we'll let these guys present, and then maybe we should have an open discussion about what we feel.
Right.
Excuse me, just before we begin, for whatever reason, the host has me disabled to share the screen.
Oh.
So it's a brief technicality.
Maybe Matt heard that.
Carrie, I do not know why you're.
I know I'm texting Jason right now.
I mean, I have the shared screen button on. And I have it checked off as participant can share at a time.
Just bear with us for a moment. Just
She's not being allowed to share.
Can somebody else control it? No.
She has the
Okay.
I can try to share it from here, see what happens.
Well, do you want to discuss in a little bit more detail them or
Yeah, let's
waiting about
yeah,
10 weeks, like what the reasoning is? Why we're thinking 10 weeks instead of.
No, I'm not able to.
Was everyone else getting that replay?
Yeah, we got it.
That reverb?
Me trying to share.
Was it your with me?
Maybe. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Beth, I'm sorry, I had to mute you because you were echoing.
No, I was just trying to see if I could share.
No, I understand.
I'm echoing because I'm here and was logging on.
James, maybe you could start on introducing, and then we can get the slides on.
Yeah, absolutely. So first, I want to thank everyone. I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of teacher meetings. I actually broke them up in departments, so it led to a more robust conversation. And I've had 2 parent meetings yesterday, one in the morning and one in the evening. And I just have to open by saying that the meetings were really positive. I was very grateful, for the parents and the staff who were on board. They had some really great questions and some really great insights. We kind of went over everything. I do have a larger PowerPoint after it gets shared. I think I just had shared the one slide, but if anyone wants to see the larger high school plan, I'm going to have that on the high school website, and that will be adjusted as the plan, is adjusted. So it's happening in real time. So in terms of the high school, we're going to be opening with the hybrid instructional model. We're going to start this off, and we will reevaluate just like the entire larger plan, after a 5-week period. It's important to note, as we've said multiple times, that the parents have the option to choose to go full virtual. if that's what they choose to do, and each person has to make that decision. When I spoke with the parents, I did say, I told them about the 5-week commitment with the possibility that it might go beyond. I know a lot of districts have, a much larger time for a commitment, and ours was fairly liberal in that regard. But basically, the way it's going to work is that the students are going to be assigned to a group based on the alpha. We're working on right now exactly where that alpha lies, but it'll be A through, a particular point, and then a particular point to Z. The first group, they'll come in physically Monday and Tuesday. They'll follow their periods 1 through 9 schedule. At the same time that's happening, the students that are home, they'll be live stream the lesson. So that way everyone's on the same page and they're up to the same spot. On Wednesday, all the students will follow a virtual schedule. And on Thursdays and Fridays, it flips. The students who were home for the first 2 days will now be coming to school in person. And then on the other side, those students, it flips the other way around. The students who are here will be going virtual. So this will allow us to have half of the student body roughly, in the building at one time, which will allow us to appropriately socially distance, within the building. Students who are fully opting out and choosing to go virtual, they would just do the virtual live streaming following their 1 through 9 lessons throughout the day. There would be some exceptions for some students who are working out right now, particularly our life skill students and our BOCE students, and we're looking at some other options as well that are appropriate. In terms of attendance, because that was a question that came up, attendance will be taken for the students who are not physically in class via the login. So students will need to log in. The teachers will be able to see what students logged in, and that's how attendance will be determined. There aren't any changes in our instructional programs. We have all the same courses that we've had previously. There weren't any changes like that. So we'll have, a very nice schedule for our students and a good program. Speaking with the teachers, they're very eager. Teachers as a group are perfectionists, and they're looking to do the best they can. And this is obviously a very new way of teaching for everyone. But I think our teachers are very much up to the task. They seem, overall positive, nervous, appropriately nervous, as anyone would be, trying out something new, as any new principal would be, trying this out. But I think we have a really solid plan. Just to go back, that Wednesday will allow for us to do deep cleaning in the building, when no one's here. And I think we have an overall good plan. So that's our academic instructional model that we're working with.
Might I just interrupt for 1 second? Matt, I'm trying to communicate with you. Are you there?
Yes, Carrie, I'm here. I'm actually on the phone
Okay.
with Jason, and he's saying that you should be able to maybe try it again.
No, it's saying host disabled, participant screen sharing.
Jason, it's saying that host is disabled. Yeah.
We'll come back to Carrie.
Just so all the parents know, we're using Zoom for this meeting, but we're going to be using Google Meets, and there's going to be no technical difficulties with Google Meets when we do the live stream.
Carrie, maybe log out, log back in. Sometimes that works.
Yeah, I can do that, but I don't think the problem's on my end. I think it's on their end.
Carrie, just to let you know, I'm going to try and do a reboot on this. Jason's coming to help me as fast as he can.
Okay, would you recommend me logging in and out and see if that helps, or no?
Yes, you can do that, please.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Carrie,
Stay
I don't
tuned,
think
folks.
you need to do that because I just tried to share my screen and it doesn't share. It says host disabled, the screen share.
Yeah, okay, so then it's definitely something they have to fix on their end.
Okay, folks,
Well-
I apologize for that.
That's okay. I don't know, board, if you want to just reverse this a little bit and do the presentation at the end?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
Want to see the consent agenda and all that.
Yes, let's
Yeah,
do
It'd be
it.
good to get through all the business, since we've a lot of business to get through.
Okay,
All right, so we'll take a pause here and we're the decade, I hope it's not the decade.
Or we could just do like this and make notes.
Yeah. Anyway, we want the consent agenda for now. Can I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I make a motion.
Second,
One second.
all in favor?
Aye.
We'll go to the superintendent's reports and recommendations. Number one, recommended the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that Robert Rivera is upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools appointed to a physical education teaching position within the aforesaid tenure area, who holds a valid New York State certification in the aforesaid tenure area for probationary term to commence September 3rd, 2020 and expire as of September 2nd, 2024, with the annual salary of $64,446. Can I have a motion?
Make motion.
Second? Any discussion? Welcome, Rob. Full time. Great. He's been here for a couple of years as a 0.8, 0.6. He's been in lots of different
He's full
things.
now.
And yeah, he's full. Congratulations. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Number two, recommended the board approve the following revised resolution. Resolved that Jonathan Augie is upon the recommendation of superintendent of schools appointed to a secondary chemistry teaching position within the aforesaid tenure area, who holds a valid New York State certification in the aforesaid tenure area for probationary term to commence September 3rd, 2020 and expire September 2nd, 2024 at the annual salary of $64,446. Have a motion?
Make a motion.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
We just got his official transcripts with the pandemic. A lot of times, official transcripts take a while to come. So we got them on board and we adjusted the salary accordingly.
Okay, so this is just a revision, we still have the same.
Yeah.
Same guy.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Number three, recommend the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the Board of Education, board accept the resignation from board member Wendy Gearing effective August 5th, 2020, and be it further resolved that the Board of Education of the East Hampton Union Free School District pursuant to Rule 14 of the Suffolk County Civil Service Commission, upon the recommendation of superintendent of schools, does hereby appoint Wendy Gearing to the position of school nurse for a probationary period of 26 weeks, commencing August 19th, 2020, and is to be paid at the annual salary of $104,969. Can I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Wendy, thank you very much. I don't know if you're home watching or not, but have a the night off.
Hey, Wendy.
That salary step is according to
It's
Where-
experience.
where what it should be, right? Because of our experience.
Yeah,
Yes.
and just so everybody knows, Wendy is a pediatric nurse practitioner,
Yes.
which is different than, you have LPN, RN, and so on. She's, that's what our chief medical officer for the district is a pediatric nurse practitioner. We're very lucky to find a pediatric nurse practitioner that will work for that salary and is willing to be here. She's an active, when he worked for Stony Brook and was an active, she saw kids every day, a lot of which are in our district. So it's a very huge thing for us to get. I'm very happy for her.
Yeah, I want to just say that I'm really happy we convinced her to do this. So it's a really, particularly now more than ever with COVID concerns, to be able, I think we've talked about it previous board meetings, our desire to hire an extra nurse at the school and to be able to fill that with a nurse practitioner who is really exciting. I think it couldn't happen at a better time. We're going to need all the help we can get this next year. So.
And thanks for your service on the board for, 7 years, 8 years? I think it's seven. Thank you.
Thank you, yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
JP?
Yeah.
Can you please keep your spot right there? Carrie, can you try again, please?
Oh, there you go, Carrie.
all right, wonderful.
Can we finish the superintendent's report and then we'll come back? Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, good. So number 4, recommend the board approve the following resolution. Resolve that the Board of Education of the East Hampton Union Free School District pursuant to Rule 14 of the Suffolk County Civil Service Commission, on the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, does hereby appoint Jacqueline Schmidzinski to the position of school nurse for a probationary period of 26 weeks commencing September 3rd, 2020, and is to be paid at the annual salary of $90,643. Can I have a motion?
Make the motion.
Second. Discussion. This is the
Great.
second
Another good
nurse.
hire.
Yeah,
Right.
local person again. Very hard to find a nurse to move.
Yes.
And we're very happy to have Jackie here. I mean, this will be an additional nurse to what we already have. We have the 3 buildings. An additional, I think, in these times, it's the very least we can do. I know I've actually gotten a couple of inquiries as to what we're planning on doing for an additional nurse, which was kind of interesting, but
Right.
as of recently. So I think it's sort of,
Yeah.
I think people will be happy about that. I hope so.
We're very
And we have-
fortunate to have this situation.
Absolutely.
And we had one retirement, right?
We had one retirement, so.
We still are keeping the level at 3, 1 in each building plus
Plus
the
one.
one floater.
Right, so we're up 1. Yes. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 5, recommend the board accept the following amended resolution. Resolved that the following board members will serve on the East Hampton Union Free School District Board Committees for 2020-21 school year as follows. I won't read them, but it begins with the academic committee. It goes down to personnel.
And we're missing 2 spots.
Missing 2 spots?
With the lines are-
With Wendy's spots, so needs 1 for athletic and personnel. Any volunteers?
I'll take athletic.
Athletic, okay.
I'll take personnel.
All right,
Or if anybody else wants to go right ahead.
it's all yours.
Can I please have a couple of motions?
Did we have a motion?
No.
My mistake, sorry. Motion first,
I make a motion.
second,
Second.
and then so it's Sandy for athletics and John for personnel.
Thank
Any
you.
further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 6, recommend the board approve the following resolution. Be hereby resolved that the Board of Education of the East Hampton Union Free School District approves the terms and memorandum of agreement dated August 18th, 2020, between the district of the East Hampton Union Free School District, related professionals association regarding the wages and longevity for the 2020-21 school year. Be it further resolved that the president of the board is authorized to execute the resulting collective bargaining agreement on behalf of the board. Have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I second.
Second? Any discussion? Nothing really.
No, and just thank you for the cooperation of the SRPA unit. Really appreciate them moving forward this way. We were expecting to have negotiations during the spring, but with the COVID crisis, we had to delay that. So we just extended the contract for a year. And very grateful that they got on board with that, and we'll begin negotiations towards maybe towards December.
Good. Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question? There are a couple of emails that are coming in that my phone's buzzing, asking about if this is a live meeting and how people can get into it because we don't have it on board. Is it just the LTV link?
Yes.
It's the LTV YouTube link. Yeah, LTV, what is it?
LTVEH.org.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're getting a couple of emails on it. Just so you know.
yeah, if you go to the LTV website, it takes you there, I would believe.
Yep.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any
Folks,
opposed?
we are also live on YouTube. We're streaming on YouTube.
Okay, that's where the link takes you, right?
Go to YouTube and Google and search East Hampton High School.
It says it on our board agenda that's posted on the website.
Yeah, it's on our web, oh, yeah, it's on our website.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I apologize. I'm just getting a couple of emails. That's what I thought the answer was.
Number 7, recommend the board approve the appointments for the 2020-21 school year, beginning with student intern program coordinator and down to district-wide translators with Lindsay Roman. Have a motion?
Make a motion.
Second?
Second.
Any
I
discussion?
have a question.
Yep.
What are we doing with internships because of safety? Are we still running internships? Are we not running internships?
Whether full term now
For
you're
the fall
talking about.
term?
I don't think we've really come to a decision that way yet. Because it depends where the student is interning. I
Right,
think it's really going to be a case by case
okay,
situation.
Yeah, I don't think we should blanketly say no.
Yeah.
Okay,
But we can't blanketly
There
say
might be
yes
some
either.
situations where kids could go.
but who is gonna be making that decision and what's the process to make that decision? That's,
Yeah. I mean, it would be, it's basically a high school program, James, working in coordination with Deb Manser
but Deb should have to send
to,
the position up to James, and James should have to
Absolutely.
approve it or
Yes.
disapprove it. Okay.
Yep.
I mean, maybe what we could do, Christina, is that
You can have Jackie.
at a future, and James at a future academic.
You're breaking up, Jackie.
Yeah.
Jackie, we're losing you.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
What I was saying was that maybe we could discuss it at a future academic committee meeting.
Makes
Yeah.
sense.
Because I just think that, like, so for example, my son has had an internship job this summer. A lot of it was online, and it was quite valuable, actually. I mean, it was a job. So I think there are possibilities to do internships. So maybe we should just talk about what parameters there are and everything like that.
that's why it should be maybe on a case-by-case basis with James as the deciding factor.
Great. All right. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 8, recommend the board approve the partnership agreement between East Hampton Union Free School District and Project Most Incorporated for the purpose of providing school-based after-school programs and homework club services based on the amount of $79,800 on a quarterly per diem basis for the 2020-21 school year in accordance with the terms and conditions set forth in said partnership agreement. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second. Any discussion?
We've been doing this for a number
Yeah,
of
that hasn't
years. I mean,
changed,
it has
right?
been-
Hasn't
right,
changed.
it's been really
They've been a
helpful.
good partner.
Yep.
Mhm.
And we, during our custodial meeting this afternoon, we were very clear about, the number of classes that would be used and making sure things are clean. And we're going to pursue that as we move along.
They've been a very good partner in all
Very
these
good.
things, all right?
Very good.
Wonderful, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
I got one other question. This is only for elementary school, not middle school.
Yeah. only
Yeah, it's
elementary.
always been.
It's always been a middle school. I am.
Now,
And I would imagine that hopefully they're doing spring too.
They, from what I heard, yes.
Yes, just not at Springs.
Right. Springs doesn't have the room. so
Springs doesn't
that's,
have the room. They're gonna do it at the neighborhood house.
Okay.
Or maybe something, they're looking for other ways.
Okay. Number 9, recommend the board approve grades 4 through 6 and grades 7 through 12 instruction contracts between the East Hampton Union Free School District and the Sagaponic Common School District for the 2020 to 2025 school years in accordance with set forth in said instruction contract. I have a motion?
I make a motion.
Second? Any discussion? Standard.
Yep.
Okay, but I have a question. We now have agreements with every district except Wayne-Stott, right?
That is correct.
Why don't we have an agreement with Wayne-Stott?
I emailed both the superintendent of Wayne Scott and district clerk and awaiting an answer.
Okay, so if we don't have an agreement, they're gonna come, right?
Now, we don't have an agreement. I don't see what
That's,
you said.
I'm not sure to be, I'll have to go leave. I'm hoping that we will have an agreement.
Well,
Being
Okay, we
optimistic.
can them and I-
Yeah, there's no reason for them not to, so if they
Right.
want to come, they gotta have an agreement.
But we need to know how many,
Yeah, we gotta have it legal.
right? So,
I want them to come, but gotta do what you gotta do. All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 10, recommend the board approve the proposal from Headquarters Portable Restrooms dated June 24th, 2020, at the cost per rental unit in the amount of $75 per month for the 2020-21 school year. Is that a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? It's a standard contract that we've had for years, I think, with them.
I just want to make a very personal statement about Wayne Scott. My granddaughter, Emma Hand, is waiting patiently to take math with her Uncle John, and Wayne Scott better let her do that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you.
I like hearing that.
All in favor first?
Aye.
I agree with you, John. Number 11, call him. Number 11, recommend that the board approve the following resolution, whereas the East Hampton Union Free School District intends to participate the County of Suffolk Bus Stop Arm Enforcement Program. Whereas the stop program is authorized in the New York State Vehicle and Traffic Law. In order to participate in the program, the school district must enter into an agreement with the county. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Board of Education hereby approves the Suffolk County School Bus Stop Arm Enforcement Program opt-in agreement made between the County of Suffolk, East Hampton Union Free School District, and the Bus Patrol America LLC, and agrees to be bound by its terms and authorizes the Board of Education President to execute the same. Can I have a motion?
Make the motion.
Second?
What's
Discussion,
different?
what is this? Yeah.
It's actually when cars unfortunately pass buses,
Mhm.
which is becoming more common, that stop arm that comes out with the bus will be
Yeah.
armed with a camera.
Oh, that's
It's being
cool.
financed with money from the county. Joel Apani was very much in favor of it.
Mhm.
I think there was a brief presentation a while ago.
I remember we heard that a while ago.
Yeah, it took a while to
Yeah.
get it
So these people
implemented.
will get fined?
Yes,
Yeah.
and they will have pictures of the car. Yeah.
Good. Good idea. Any other discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Number 12, recommend the board approve the following budget transfers, beginning from A 2070.4500.04, and then ending, I guess it's just the two, at A 2010.4804. Have a motion?
Make a motion.
I second.
Second, discussion? Anything you want to add? No?
No, budget transfer just to pay for books and everything else.
Yeah, it's not an additional cost, it's just moving money.
Right.
You have to keep it one line.
One
so
code
not-
to the other.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? All right, that concludes the superintendent's report for the day. So we'll go back to the
Back to the
presentation.
presentation. So
Yeah.
maybe, James, I think we have your PowerPoint available, but did you cover most points?
Yeah, I pretty much covered it all. The only thing that might be useful is the last slide, which kind of goes over what the schedule looks like, just for anyone who is curious. So you have group one, which is, the beginning part of the alphabet. On Monday, they would come in person. Tuesday, they would come in person. Wednesday, they would have virtual instruction. Thursday, virtual. Friday, virtual. For the second group, which would be the tail end of the alpha, they would be virtual on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. And then they would come in person Thursday and Friday.
Great. And James, that will be put on the website for people to view at their leisure.
So on the website right now, if you go to the high school website, there is a link to this. I'm going to have an updated link that will be on there. So I'll update whenever I have an update. And it actually has a lot more detail than the 4 slides. It kind of goes into some of the precautions that we're taking as well.
Thank you, James.
Welcome.
Okay, actually, for a minute, not the math protocol.
The MASH protocol,
Math
sure.
protocol, because I know I had like a half a dozen parents contact me over it, and I've seen a lot of it questioning online for all 3 of the buildings.
Correct.
We had originally said there's,
Mass breaks.
right, but outside or when you're eating. But now it seems to be there's a little bit of, oh, well, if you're 6 feet apart, it'll be up to the discretion of the teacher. And there were a lot of parents that contacted me and said, we want to know a solid answer because we don't want to send our child if you're going to have mask breaks inside.
The
So-
solid answer is there will be no mask breaks inside. Masks must be worn all the time except if
Exactly. Okay. So if you're outdoors and they're 6 feet apart,
appropriately social.
right, but
socially
indoors,
distanced.
there will
Yes.
not be any mask breaks,
We're
even if
following,
you're 6 feet apart.
we're following the guidelines from our district position on this.
Right,
Harriet Hellman, and she was emphatic about
For
this.
okay,
all 3 buildings,
all
Yes.
3 buildings.
Yes,
all 3 buildings.
Well, that's what Harriet's recommending, that we.
yes, she is.
Okay.
Well, can I clarify that for a second? My hope is that, and I agree 100% in masks on all the time inside in classrooms and all that. But my hope is that there will become designated areas like the courtyard, courtyards or outdoor space or a window if a kid needs to take a break. Like at the high school, for example, you have all those outdoor courtyards there. My hope is that we figure out some protocol as we here so that there is an opportunity for kids in an outdoor space, you know, to take a mask break for a minute. And that if a kid is feeling like they need a mask break, that can be like a bathroom break, and so long as it's not particularly disruptive.
Excuse me, school board, this is LTV. I just want to let you know that there's one person holding on the phone.
Okay. Do we want to go to one person now instead of making them wait?
Do we want to do it about-
Yeah, when it pertains to the high school, yes.
But I don't think, I don't think you can know. We'll just wait until we're done. If the person wants to call back, and you know, there's only one, just so you know, it's going to take a few minutes to go through both the buildings.
I think we should.
So can I just ask a question on that? Is that something that we could just ask? Is that a possibility? I'm asking the principals. Is that something you've thought about as a protocol during the course of the day?
Yeah, in terms of the mask break, yeah, you know, that kind of was a little bit new to me. But yeah, I mean, listen, we figured out harder things than how to make this work. So yeah, we can absolutely figure that out. Once we get a more clear protocol, I'll have that up on the PowerPoint on the website.
I'm just throwing that into the mix because I support having masks on the whole time. Let me be very clear about that. But because the issue of mask breaks came up, I wanted to give my opinion that should be an outdoor opportunity. And if we could figure out how to do that, we could figure out how to do that.
In the high school with the exterior doors in every classroom, it's a little bit easier. In the middle school,
right.
I know what Charlie will come up with. Right.
Okay, I think we're.
I'm not trying to throw a wrench into anything. I'm just throwing something out there for discussion since we're all there together. I think it's something to consider. I'm not trying to make it more complicated.
Okay, Charlie, thank you. Ready to go, Tom?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So Carrie, do you mind going to the next slide, please? Perfect. So what I want to start with, and I'll do this with the parents as well, is talking about a mindset to begin with, and this is what I'll do with the students, because I think it's extremely important, and I emphasize this in my 2 emails to the parents over the summer, and then also to the staff, that, you know, even in the midst of this national health crisis, we're going to keep chugging ahead and maintain as much normalcy as we possibly can, and obviously to continue to be flexible. I love the metaphor of flying and the pilot, whether you're the pilot at home or the pilot at school or the pilot in your classroom, that the pilot, you know, doesn't tell everyone we're going through really bad weather and this plane's liable to go down, but instead has a well-rehearsed series of announcements. And that's the same thing that I'm going to keep reinforcing as principal to parents and to staff, and then staff will keep reinforcing this with their students, and parents hopefully will also do the same thing at home, because I think all of us are guilty of this as adults. We know a lot more because we have a lot more life experiences when we're in our 40s and 50s and 60s, and often we impose those anxieties on kids unwittingly and innocently and accidentally. So I often will spend time on the mindset piece, and I just want to do that. And I'll do it again with parents. They're used to hearing that, and I want to emphasize it because we're just going to try to keep the regular rhythms to the extent we can, and we'll make modifications. Because truth be told, even with the shift to electronic learning, these kids are digital natives and they spend a lot of time on devices. And there's, you know, for that piece of it, there's simply no reason that they can't make that transition to the devices for schoolwork and be successful at it, knowing, look, there are barriers and there are difficulties, but we're constantly going to work to overcome those. But I want to emphasize normalcy and keep talking about that. Even though the situation is not normal, we're going to focus on what's normal about it and how we can continue to give them the middle school experience that we have in the past. Carrie, do you mind going to the next slide, please? So for us, there are just 2 choices. The first is the hybrid model of 2 days in person and then 3 days virtual via Google Classroom. And the second is full virtual, which is 5 days, all virtual, also via Google Classroom. Next slide. So for the first option, the 2 days in person, 3 days virtual instruction, I'm going to divide grades 6, 7, and 8 in half, and half of each grade will be assigned to either cohort A or cohort B. I had said in my parent note, I'm not sure if board members get that, but I could easily put you on those, that I'll figure out what the appropriate break point is in the alphabet, probably by September 2nd, and then assign that way. However, that's not a hard and fast rule. There are households where we have kids coming from the same households that have different last names. So I've already noted to the parents that they should let Tony Lazaris know, and then we can make changes. Also, when it comes to coordination with the high school or with sending districts in terms of families, again, it's not a hard and fast barrier. If we need to be flexible and make a change of cohort, we can certainly do that. So for the purposes of the model, cohort A attends in person on Mondays and Tuesdays, and then they attend virtually on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. And then B attends in person on Thursday and Friday, and then attends virtually on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. And then finally, the entire school is fully virtual on Wednesday. And as James said, that's our one of our deep cleaning days. And this is really important, because in the event that we do wind up fully virtual or forced to be fully virtual because of disease conditions or a governmental announcement, that at least the staff and the students have practiced as a whole group doing virtual instruction together. So I'm glad we're going that route. Carrie, next slide, please. So then there are some key requirements to the hybrid model, the option 1, and that's all students must wear masks, as we've talked about, at all times except during lunch. And I could have put a little star here. And of course, this will include breaks. I would envision, because of the way we run things at the middle school, that teachers would probably during the period say, okay, time to take a break. We're all going to go outside and have the kids spread out, take their masks off. It'll be versions like that. And that's perfectly normal, because if any of you have worn masks for 8 hours or longer, you know you need a break. Kids are going to need a break. We need breaks. But that will take place outside or during lunch. Also, all students must submit to automatic temperature checks. So there'll be machines at 2 of our controlled entry points where that will happen. All students who become ill must be quarantined on site. So we have a room abutting the nurse's office where students will be quarantined, and then Barbara will arrange, or the nurse on duty will arrange for parent pickup ASAP. And I'll emphasize that to the parents. I think they understand. And then finally, I've said this too in the note, all students must stay home if they're feeling sick or have a fever. And I added, when in doubt, stay home, because they can always do virtual instruction if they're not sure about how they're feeling. Carrie, next slide, please. So then there are some key characteristics and conditions that go along with option 1. And that's that, again, to reinforce the normalcy, Respect at EHMS is our behavioral program, and it's the way we all relate to each other as a community. So I'm going to incorporate mask wearing and hand washing and all these COVID-19 related issues into the program. So I'll have a separate piece for that, and I've been working and staff have been involved with me in coming up with the top 10 for this particular situation. And it will be something easy to remember, easy to talk about, easy to reinforce at home, but it will be part and parcel of what we do for now. As I said before, students can remove masks at lunch. Our lunch tables, I talked with Reno a couple of weeks ago, and we're going to retrofit them with plexiglass partitions. that will just form an X, and we'll be able to isolate each student, and I'll reduce the tables from 8 to 4. So students can sit in every other seat, and we'll have an X across the seat, and they'll know not to be there. But of course, we have faculty monitoring all this. But the middle school kids are great. They'll, as soon as we introduce that to them, I have no doubt that the next day they will be, right on point. And then we've also installed over 40 hand sanitizer stations throughout the building, in classrooms and in hallways. I'll show you a photo example a little bit later. And then we will continue, as we always do, to have recess outside at all times. And that's almost what we do anyway, because it's good for the kids to get fresh air, but we'll modify some of the activities. Next slide, please, Carrie. So I'm working on a model where teachers will be able to take classes outside on a rotating basis. I've talked to Chuck about having some of those MiFi units where, and this would, we're going to have to see how this works, because I don't want the students at home to not be a part of this. So if we do go down this route of being able to get outside, and I think when the weather's good, we should be able to do this, that kids at home will still be able to see the teacher and still be able to see the screens. I'm also saying that we're not allowing any visitors in the building, except in very unusual circumstances, but I don't really want people coming in. All clubs will be virtual. There'll be no after-school buses, and everyone will leave at dismissal. I'm shifting the parent sign out. It used to be that you came into the main office to sign out with Polly, and now all the sign out will take place at the main entry with Mrs. Von Frank. So she will arrange, she's our eye in the sky. She will know where kids are. She will arrange to have them waiting for parent pickup, and everything will go through her. It makes it much easier and cleaner. And then we don't introduce folks into the building as well. Also, we'll no longer be using our PE lockers or the hallway lockers. And then parent, staff meetings will take place virtually, much like this is happening. I've already told the staff that when we meet, and we have regular meetings planned every day, I'm just going to have folks sit in their rooms, and we'll do it just like this. The same for the faculty meeting. I really don't want people gathering. I have a lot of friends that are in the corporate world, and they say they have completely eliminated that folks are meeting virtually. It works for instruction. It can work for our meetings. It's just a lot safer, and it cuts down on exposure. Carrie? Okay, perfect. Assemblies and group gatherings will be suspended temporarily. Because of the cohorting with A and B, class sizes are cut in half. And I think it was Sandy at one of the prior board meetings that talked about what will happen to the loads based on people that opt out. And that will, in fact, impact this, as well as any increase in enrollment. So there's an asterisk here that once we do cohort, class sizes at the middle school in the regular size rooms will range from 9 to 14 students rather than 18 to 28. But we do have to be mindful about any increases in enrollment, because that could change that, in which case we'd have to think about a different model. And I have other options that we can fall back on if we need to, but I don't think that's a discussion we need to have now. Also, any shared work tables and areas will have plexiglass barriers. Reno and Tony have already started installing these. They look great. The PE and music will have to be modified for safety. I know Joe has been working on this, and Troy Grindle as well. Music at this point, to be honest, I'm not entirely convinced, although I hear about the 12 feet. I'm not sure that I'm comfortable at this time with kids blowing into instruments and having that blow into the room. That was the last I heard when we talked. So I need to hear more about that. But certainly, again, because this is a crisis, there would be nothing wrong with shifting music for a while to more of a paper experience. You can make you know, as a musician myself, you can make music and music theory and the history of music really interesting and fun for kids. I've seen it done at the school level in elementary schools and in middle schools. So I think more to come on this. We'll see what Troy comes up with, but I'm hesitant. Even with that 12-foot distance, it frankly makes me nervous. Stringed instruments are different because you can have a mask on, but with blowing into brass instruments in a room, I'm, you know, again, hesitant.
Can you hear?
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Charlie,
Yep.
can you hear me?
Who is that?
It's Rich.
Rich, yes.
Yes, just in terms of your hesitancy, I was on the phone with Harriet Hellman yesterday, and she's very concerned with the music experience, and she'll be providing some guidance for us. She's even more concerned with the choral groups more than the instrumental groups. She's very worried about the transmission that way. So we'll get more information to you on that topic.
Great. Yeah, as am I. I was getting to that. That was the first, you know, I was doing the instrumental first, but chorus is even worse. So, you know, I'd be interested to see what she's put together. You know, we're all experiencing this. There are guidelines by a lot of different groups, and I think you have to sift through them and make intelligent decisions based on what you're hearing. So I'll be interested to hear what she has to say. But it's one of those things that it's a little bit, it gives me pause for sure.
Yeah, I think we don't like to err on the side of caution, yeah, rather than.
Sarah, was that you?
But it was Christina. But we
Oh, sorry. It's a little hard to hear. Maybe your mics are low.
Maybe the mouth.
Oh, yeah.
We all have masks.
Oh, right. Also, we'll have the traffic flow is going to be predetermined by floor signage, and I have some examples of that as well. So there'll be visual prompts and spatial prompts for the kids. And then obviously, you know, group bathrooms will be off limits during passing time because we don't want kids congregating. Carrie, next slide, please. Thank you. And then, you know, with this model, students are still required to follow the teacher's live stream during each class period, every day, even when they're on virtual days. And just as when they're in school in person, we're still going to take attendance on the virtual days. And that's basically it for the hybrid model. Now I think we go to, oh, and here are the examples. So LC and I went down and bought Bernie out of all his frog tape and all of his colored tape down at East Hampton Hardware. And you'll see some examples. I took this picture today of the visual cues that I was talking about in green on the floor. So that is throughout the building on every floor. There are 6-foot markings, and they're in different colors on different floors and different parts of the building. But it's just to give kids a sense and good reminders about what does 6 feet look like. And also we will have posters and that sort of thing for proper mask wearing, traffic flow. Are you feeling sick? You should stay home. And then symptoms for COVID-19. And it will all be middle school friendly. It'll be a little cheeky. It'll be fun. It'll be stuff that the kids, you know, will remember and likely talk about. And then next slide. Then the hand hygiene stations that I talked about. Here's an example of one. And these are installed throughout the building. And we'll also talk about hand washing with soap and water, and that, you know, it's not a drive-by, but a thorough washing and how that gets done. So, you know, have teachers on board talking about it, again, in a fun way and middle school appropriate way. Next slide, Carrie. Then our option 2, some of the key characteristics are that obviously grades 6, 7, and 8 who elect this option stay home entirely. Everything will be via Google Classroom. Students will be expected to follow each teacher's live stream during every class period, every day from home, and that attendance will be taken just like with in-person schooling.
And what happens?
And then peer parents will be required to occasionally pick up materials at school. We'll have some kind of system for this, much like we did at the onset of all this in April and May. This is to be figured out, but for the most part, everything, and the teachers know this, is going to be done via Google Classroom to make it easier for everyone, but we may need to get them materials, so we'll use this kind of a system. Also, because full virtual is unique, and I respect those that are going to make this kind of a choice. I think it is a little bit harder, especially with middle schoolers. So parents are going to have to consistently reinforce that students have to participate every day to be successful, and we will help them with that. Even though they're not in school, they'll still be getting notes from me. I'm hoping that Barbara will still be up to doing her visits and being redeployed in that way, because in this model, students and parents do take greater responsibility. You don't have the prompt of the teacher, and that's hard, but I think it's still our responsibility to help. So we will be doing that and continuing like we did in the spring. And then finally, the families are committing, unless we change this, to the 5-week period. And then I just had, these are 2 questions that I had that I put in here, and Adam and I had some conversation about this earlier today. I still want to get to greater clarity before I can share with parents what this will look like. But as I said, there are always lots of sort of protocols and suggested procedures. But when the rubber meets the road and you're actually implementing these in a building, I need to get clearer on what happens when students and staff test positive. I'm not in a position to be able to describe this in a way that I'm comfortable with at this point. So I think more discussion needs to happen for sure. Then that certainly the guidelines are out there, but it's like a ball of yarn that once you start to actually press on this and ask questions, some of it falls apart. So I think it's doable, but I don't want to share it with parents until it's crystal clear on my end. And then Adam and I spoke about the last one today. The HVAC issues and ventilation issues are really important. And apparently we're set for some sort of filtering in all of the buildings. So that makes me feel good. There was a great piece on PBS a couple days ago about this topic from an epidemiologist that was fascinating. So it makes me feel good that this is being addressed, because that's really that would be the weak link in all this if we didn't have that. And then I think the last one is just questions, and this I've asked parents in my email that anything they want to know, they should email me, and I may not be able to answer it right away, but I'll get back to them and I'll set up a FAQ that will be, I'll distribute to everyone so people can benefit from the questions that folks ask. And that's basically what I'm going to present to our parents.
If we have questions, should we talk about it now or wait? I have a couple of questions.
Yeah, I have a question too.
You can do it now, why not?
Can you, Carrie, okay, I was just going to change my screenshot. Do we want to get rid of this shared screen for a second? Is that possible? Just so we can see everyone big again?
Is that what you wanted, Jackie? What do you want?
No, I just wanted I wanted to see everyone big again, but maybe I just have to change my view options.
Oh, yeah, I think you can do that on your end, I think.
All right, I'll have to figure that out. I'll do it after. Okay, I don't want to hold everyone up.
I can close your screen right now.
Did you do that for a second? That would be great. Then we can go back to that.
Okay, there you go. Thank you, Matt.
Perfect, thank you. All right, so a couple different questions. Maybe this is a conversation we could bring up after. I just want to flag it because Charlie brought up the issue of what happens when someone tests positive, and I think that's a really important conversation to have. And obviously, that's that's something that we need our medical people to inform on, but I just want to bring up the issue that we've discussed, and I don't know if tonight's the time to discuss it, or we discuss it at another point, or we do it at the end of Beth, but we have discussed testing regimens, period. Has anything new come on that since we've discussed that? Is that a time to
Discuss that a little
about
bit.
now?
Yeah.
What?
Adam has something to bring to us. We're gonna discuss it once we get to, I believe, new business, old business.
Okay, perfect. That was question number one. And then question number two, with respect to what Charlie said, the issue of air quality is something that we've been talking about intensely, and recognizing that that's the single biggest issue here. And I think the board has really placed an emphasis on whatever funds are necessary to do retrofits. You know, not looking for chemical solutions at all. We're looking for actual physical filters, the ability to open up windows in classrooms. I'm really happy to hear about your plans to take kids out. I know that's something that matters to parents. The other thing I'd like to bring up here, and it's relevant to all classrooms, is technology hotlines when people are having trouble.
It's already set up.
Checking in, who they call. I want to make sure that we talk about technology hotlines, and then at the appropriate time, how these lessons are preserved on tape. If I just want to throw that out.
Well, you're a perfect example while things have to be on some sort of recording.
Exactly, because
Which means you get
yeah.
this.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you break it up.
Yeah,
That's
break
a
it up
perfect
now.
example of why you have to have something on some sort of recording, because kids are going to miss them.
Yeah. I feel very, very strongly about this. So I'm just going on record right now at this meeting that I feel very, very strongly that we need to provide equal opportunity to all of our kids.
I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we can't penalize kids for their internet dropping, right? And
Yep. But thank you, Charlie. That was a very good presentation. And James,
We'll leave that for our
both of your
administration.
presentations.
Thank you.
thanks, Charlie.
Maybe if we could go to Beth now with the elementary school. Karen?
Everyone mind if I take off?
No,
Go ahead.
we're 6 feet.
All right, mine's really easy.
Just bear with me a second. I got to just find it, where it went.
So, the elementary school, as we all know, is a very unique place with unique opportunities and unique challenges. But we know that kids at this level will benefit most from being in school. Therefore, students at the elementary level will be coming back Monday through Friday, full days. And, parents have an option for remote learning. At this point, I know everyone's wondering about class size. We haven't had that many respondents. Of the 47, 43 have opted for remote learning. But that is an option. And I believe there's another survey going out where parents can decide. And I know a lot of people are waiting to hear what I have to say before they make a decision, which I completely understand. But I want everyone to know, and fluid is the word that we've all been saying, but there are a lot of unknowns at this point. So everything that I say may change. Enrollment is steadily increasing daily. Yesterday it was 530, today it was 533, and every day it goes up a few.
Yep.
So it's really difficult to tell a parent, how many kids are going to be in your child's class when we have this ongoing registration that is happening. But we are enthusiastically moving forward and making a very safe plan for our students and our staff. Like Charlie was saying, normalcy is very important. Our culture is one of caring and love and community and fun, and we will endeavor to keep all of those things in place. But it's going to look very different. Carrie, if you wouldn't mind going down to the third slide, please.
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt for just a second. I know you're in the middle of this. We will have, never mind. I'm sorry, keep going.
So, you know, it's going to look different in that learning spaces are going to look different. Classrooms are going to look different. You know, if you want to use sort of a metaphor, it's like going back to the classrooms that, you know, I went to or my parents went to, or all the desks are going to be in rows. There's not going to be a meeting area on a rug. You know, it's doors are going to be open, where the fire marshal always said the doors had to be closed. So like everything I've been telling the teachers to do, or it's like opposite day, all year long. But like James was saying, I met with the coordinators today. I have a lead teacher meeting next week. Teachers really believe that this is the right thing, and they're being flexible and they understand that this is what's best for our students. So we are moving forward with this plan. I'm going to walk you through sort of what a day would look like, and that's how we do things at the elementary school. So I'm starting with arrival, because our goal is to really minimize those large groups of students interacting. So there are going to be bus drop-off is going to happen at the same time that it always did at 8:30. There'll be 3 points of entry, one by the bus loop, one by the kindergarten wing doors. If you know where that is, it's the front of the building. And then outside classroom doors. And there'll be monitors outside directing kids. Their temperatures will be checked. We are going to have sort of a holding area outside under a tent for anyone that has a fever. I'll get into that in a little bit later. So bussers will come first. It doesn't look like, you know, according to our survey, many are taking the bus, but we have a plan for the ones that do. Car drop-off is going to be later. I have been in communication with the Village Police Department, and we came up with a plan to make sure that the bus loop is cleared, because we're going to be using it for car drop-off as well. So there'll be 3 drop-off points. The car loop, the usual drop-off area, is going to be drop-off point 1. And I have a map that I'll have for parents tomorrow for our meeting. And then we are going to use the bus loop going up the wrong way. So again, remember, it's opposite day. We're doing everything wrong. Going into the back of the building, and there'll be a drop-off point by, if anyone knows the building, the 4th grade wing, and then there'll be a drop-off point by the 5th grade wing, and then parents, we think the advisement from the village is that they have to make a left onto Church Street. So this way,
we have to move around the back of the building and out and use that the old entry. Yeah.
So that is a fire lane. This is not set in stone. I don't have the complete rubber stamp yet, but everyone's in conversations and they know that this is a pandemic, right, and that we have to manage the traffic in the village, and this is a way to do it. So it's not going to be like if you're K-2, you're here. We're doing it by your classroom, because kids will be entering into their classroom doors. Right. So when you'll get notification from the school that you're at drop-off point 1, 2, or 3 with a map. And it really depends on where your classroom is in the building. It is mainly 4th and 5th in the back, but there's a couple of 3rd and 1st grade classes mixed in there too.
What happens if you have siblings and one's in kindergarten and one's in the 4th?
They go to the older kids spot, and then there'll be monitors to direct them. Okay. Temperatures, I know we have 2. I haven't seen them yet, but I think we walked through it.
Yes.
But I don't know. I feel like we're also going to have to do the thermometers. This is something we're working out now. You know, my daughter goes through a camp, and I drive up. They take her temperature in the car. And the other day she was high, so they made me pull over. They put her under the tent, took temperature again. She was fine. I drove away. That's a lot easier. And I know Rich proposed this, than having to have the kid in the building and then have a parent come back after they drop them off. We're gonna do both of those things and see how it goes the first few days. The police are definitely concerned about how long that's gonna take, because we average, it's like 5 seconds a car. You know, that could take an hour and a half if we have 350 cars there. I didn't do the math, so don't quote me on that, but it'll take a long time. So we're working that out, and we have a plan that we'd like to propose for sort of phasing in the start of school, maybe having the lower grades come in first, so we can kind of, you know, figure this all out. before we have everybody back. So that's arrival. Next slide, please. So children will wear masks, face coverings, as per the guidelines. We are being very mindful of not creating, for lack of a better term, a police state. So we want to keep that positive culture that we have. So, you know, kids will have a common language if kids don't want to wear their masks. So, you know, masks keep us safe. Let's be kind and cover up. It's not like, put on your mask, you're not wearing your mask. Or 6 feet, 6 feet. There's not going to be any of that. It's going to be, please be sure to give your neighbors space. You know, when I'm on the beach, I'm listening to how people are managing, and those are the types of things that they're saying to not make anybody feel bad, not make the person feel bad, not make the other person feel bad. So, you know, that's going to be something I talk to the staff a lot about, but positive framing is a technique that we use anyway, and that will apply to masks and social distancing as well. We are allowing children to bring their own face covering. If they don't have one, the district has graciously supplied surgical masks, child-sized ones. If they either lose them, which little kids do, or if they don't have a mask, I'm going to share with parents tomorrow. There's all sorts of mask accessories now, and one of them is a lanyard that you can attach to the mask with the kid's name on it and pretty colors, so they don't lose their mask. They will have breaks, absolutely, when they're eating and having snack and lunch, when they're outdoors, and we will build in mask breaks. I believe that Christina said, you know, we're lucky to have the doors on the classrooms. Just take a step outside, spread out, everybody gets a break, and we're going to need them. So that's masks. Carrie, next slide, please. So what is the classroom going to look like? This is the big question. And I think Russell and I are going to take some pictures for our parent meetings for one of the classrooms that we set up. And again, I know parents are concerned about the size. So at this point, our largest class is 21, and those are the dual language classes. The plan is to move them into a common space, which at this point I think is going to be the library, so they can really spread out. However, these numbers really are dependent on how many families elect for remote learning. So it's very difficult to say how many kids are going to be in a class. But we are able to set up a classroom with there are going to be desks 6 feet apart. Classrooms that have tables will be in a horseshoe configuration with some desks in the middle of the horseshoe. They will be in rows, like I said. The desks, outdoor space is going to be used whenever feasible. It looks like we may be getting 3 tents. So one for each drop-off point, and then one in the courtyard. And we're creating a schedule for everyone's going to have an assigned area that they can go outside and teach. We ordered seat cushions that have a little handle for every student. So when they go and sit on the grass, their bottoms won't get wet or dirty. That's their own cushion. And we are repurposing, like I said, large spaces. The library, the cafeteria, kids will be eating in their classrooms. So the cafeteria will be used for another purpose to be determined.
Can you use you have that nice courtyard, interior courtyard that you made into the garden, and weren't there like little love seats and things like that?
They're not there anymore, they rotted, but that's one of the tents. Yeah, one of the tents is going to be in there.
Okay.
But yes, definitely. And we're going to get outside as much as possible. Next slide, please.
What happens with the virtual when you're outside? I mean,
so our virtual is very different. I'll get into that. So as I mentioned, students are pretty much going to be in their classroom most of the day. The movement will be by the teachers, not the kids. So specials will be push-in. Typically the classes that share, like we're departmentalized in 2 grades, 4th and 5th grade, the kids won't move, the teachers will move. Dual language, the kids won't move, the teachers will move. They'll have lunch in their classroom. There is going to be a hot lunch option. We originally said that was not, but there will be. Recess and PE will be outside, weather permitting, whenever we can get that. We're looking at cohorting 2 classes during recess and PE, again, depending on class size. The PE department is doing a great job of sort of reworking their curriculum to make sure it's more focused on fitness, yoga, games, things like that. We're not really having to share and touch equipment. I know our art teacher was thought ahead and ordered separate art supplies for every student, so they have their own little kit, so they don't have to, 500 kids touching the same crayons, things like that. Much like Charlie, there won't be any large group gatherings. Luckily, last year, Russell and a group of teachers, we already started doing morning announcements virtually, about maybe once every 2 weeks. So we're already sort of set up for that, where teachers log on in their smartboard and they see what's happening. So that's how we'll do our all-school meeting and any other sort of group meeting to sort of keep those treasured traditions going, but just in a new way. Parents were asking, like, are they ever going to be able to leave the classroom? Yes. If they need to fill up their water bottle, they can go to the water fountains. If they need to visit the nurse, we just ask that one student leave at a time and that they're wearing their mask. There'll be frequent hand washing. That happens anyway at the elementary level. There's sinks in every classroom, there's bathrooms in every classroom, but for the 5th graders, that's the one group of kids that share a bathroom. But they already have a system for not having too many kids in there at once. There's hand sanitizer dispensers all over the building, instructional areas and common areas. And our building will be clean and sanitized every evening. So Project Most will be there. They don't use the whole building. So the custodial staff start with the area that's not being used. And then at 6 p.m., the building clears out, and that's when the other spaces will be cleaned. Any shared space that we have, there won't be many. We're thinking about maybe some science will be cleaned after each use. Dismissal looks very similar to arrival. Kids leave from their classroom door. We won't have that corralling that goes on in the gym anymore for the bussers. They'll wait in their classroom. There'll be like a Google form basically up on the teacher's board when bus B arrives. Everyone will know bus B kids walk to their bus. And parents have the same pickup point as the drop-off point that they have in the morning. Next slide, please. Did you want to talk about this? So pre-K?
Pre-K, yes, that's we brought that up.
Do you want me to skip to remote learning first?
Why don't you go to, yes, that
Okay.
makes sense.
Next slide, please. So our remote learning is going to look very different, and it should. We are not in favor of having young children on a screen all day long. It's not appropriate for them. It just doesn't work at this level. So what we're thinking is that we will have a remote learning teacher or teachers on each grade level. And they will be facilitating live instruction via Google Meet daily for core subjects. And this is, again, to minimize screen time. There'll be office hours and small group support offered daily. This is much like what we did in the spring, but with more FaceTime with kids. We have an idea of how we're going to do this. I think, again, if your child is in a, say, Mrs. Smith's class, your remote learning teacher is most likely not going to be Mrs. Smith. It's going to be someone that is very familiar with the grade level, maybe worked on the grade level, maybe still works on the grade level. And we're thinking it as like a 5th section or a 6th section. And those kids will be grouped together. And, if our numbers stay where they are, there may be, I was talking with Julie Medler today, like a one-room schoolhouse approach where we may have like a kindergartner and a 1st grader together. And, we will use assessments and information that we know about the children to meet their needs. So it all really depends on the number of people that opt in. But we have, I think, some really good ideas to make this a meaningful experience for the kids.
Can we settle on a deadline for that then? Is it Monday? I mean, I think we really need to, for all 3 buildings, we need to have parents have a deadline for a decision.
So
And,
today is Tuesday.
I think Monday or Friday.
Survey.
I think we could get a survey together.
Irrevocable though.
Yeah, it's gotta be a hard
Yes.
Commit.
It's gonna be hard to do,
Yeah, I agree.
because people are always gonna say, well, I need more information before I make a decision.
Well,
Well, that's
we
what
have
we're
to
getting
make-
that information. Most
We're not gonna
schools,
get it, so there it is.
most school districts, if you read what's been going on, most school districts already have their commitment from kids.
Yeah.
And parents.
It's very
So,
difficult to plan when you don't have that information.
Right.
We
So-
can't, we can't.
so maybe
It's a
we'll give it a
difficult
week. Let's just say it's gonna be either Monday or Wednesday. It'll be clear in the survey that goes out. And it won't, I almost don't want to call it a survey, because previously we had a survey.
Commitment form.
This is a commitment form. We'll put something together, and it's gonna be, you have to make the choice. And I think what has to happen is the length of the commitment is very important.
Yeah.
So I would like to kind of review it, and we were kind of thinking of 5 weeks when we started putting this together, but as we said, it's a very fluid situation. I think we have to go to the first marking period. So for trimester for the elementary school, but the first marking period, which is about a 10-week period, we'll include that in the information. So there'll be a commitment if the board is in agreement for first marking period. That's about a 10-week period.
I think you also have to plan for some people not responding at all. And where do they fall? Do they fall into the,
Then maybe we
their
make them
comment?
remote. If you
I
don't
think we-
respond, you have to be remote.
Or do we just have only the people who are opting out?
Yes. Is that how?
Yeah, that's what originally it was. It got a little confusing.
It was
We didn't do a
like-
good job of getting that out the right way, but I think it has to be, you have to actively opt out.
Because it's
Otherwise,
easier
we
for
think
them
you're
to
gonna
go
be
away.
there.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Can I make a suggestion? Could we, just because a lot of people see surveys, people are busy, people are working, like perhaps we've done it before. Is there any way to have people follow up with parents if we don't have answers? Is there, register?
Or reverse emergency call also go out, if an email goes out, and then everybody in the district gets something saying important, just like you do for a snow day.
I think we need to do that. I think we need to be in contact
Wait a minute.
with every family.
Sort of, people have to have some responsibility here
Yeah.
too. I mean, we're gonna hold their hand to make sure that they don't.
Yeah, but survey,
Because he's not an excuse, in my opinion, but that's me.
yeah, but JP, surveys on balance, like people are happy.
This is
What?
a commitment form.
It's gonna be a commitment form for only parents who are going to opt out.
Understood, but I think we have to communicate via a lot of different channels. And I think that it would not be a bad thing for guidance to follow up or whomever is appropriate within.
They hit every single phone number that you have.
Yeah, I just
So
don't
we're
like
so
that.
parent that's
I just don't
gonna
like the reverse, I don't, because it gets worn out after a while, that reverse call thing.
We get them back to college night, I get them, I mean.
Yeah.
Right, okay, all right. I like the robocall. I like it.
I know, but this is important, guys. This is important.
I agree, it's
I
important.
have a question. We are talking about a 10-week commitment to opt out for all buildings,
No,
Elementary is
Elementary.
13.
just elementary.
They're trying
elementary is
About
13,
12 or 13.
12 or 13,
Yeah.
because they're trimesters. We're going to the first marking period,
December
10-week
4th.
period.
Well,
We'll
Five
have
weeks is
the
just
actual
not-
date.
For
Is it
grades
all
6
5
through
weeks?
12 will be 10 weeks. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Everybody 6 through 12 will be 10 weeks.
Correct.
And grades pre-K through 5 will be 13 weeks. Trimester.
I'm just gonna throw
We will
this,
give the exact dates out in the final,
but I'm gonna throw this out too. There's such an influx now with new registration.
Yeah, this is gonna change, yeah.
It's gonna change, and this whole model is going to change if more people decide to go in person.
You could,
So-
in theory, we could not have enough room, in theory, to have elementary school if we get a big registration. People
every
just need to
day,
be,
every
they
day.
need to be very well aware of that. I mean,
Right.
that's not our intent, but we don't know who's gonna register, we don't know who's not gonna register, we don't know who's gonna opt out, and we don't know who's gonna stay. So until we know, I mean, this whole thing could be for nothing.
The other piece to that is extending the period of time. I think we're being liberal. Many school districts are going through December. So I don't know if you want to discuss that.
I think a marking period's fair.
Yeah.
I do.
Okay.
But with everybody knowing from the beginning that when we say whatever, when we come to the end of that period, if we can't get everybody in the building,
Yeah, we may not
our
be coming
town
out.
model is gonna change.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I think we need to be
More
like
so
very
put-
clear,
We are, well,
yeah,
you're
that,
being clear.
yeah,
I
So-
as clear as you can.
that there's no guarantee that, you know.
So the longer you make the period, the more people are going to say they're opting in. And then we're gonna allow, people on a daily basis to stop coming in. Are we not? If somebody says,
Yeah, of course.
I'm coming for 13
Yes.
weeks,
Yes,
and then after 1 week, they say I'm out,
yes,
we're gonna let them out.
You can't trap people there.
So I think we're creating,
Can't come
Can't
back.
do the other way.
but,
Yeah.
yeah,
They go out.
but I think we're creating a big problem and forcing ourselves to throw away a good model that we have.
How is that?
The good model that we have is that everybody should be in the elementary school. We're gonna force ourselves to throw away that plan.
I don't
I
understand.
don't understand.
Because if we have too many people, we can't do it.
Right, if we have too many people.
We're
it's not
forcing
gonna
people
help out.
to say they're coming when they may not be.
I think for planning purposes, I think you kind of have to. I mean, how do you
Because at the
plan?
end of 5 weeks,
What if they
we're
all
gonna
come?
get a huge influx.
Right.
I know.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I
right.
know, but if you gave a shorter time, you would get a better commitment, I think.
What I'm hearing
But
is
you will
that
also
people
have
are
too many kids.
doing the 5 weeks, so they want us to see how it goes.
Right,
And then they're gonna have to pay. So I guess if we
And then
do
it
a
all
good
goes out the
job,
window. You can't, then you can't have people remote at that point.
And then if that, your school will be
that's my message.
too many students,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
won't be able to go every day.
Because if we have too many students, then we are gonna have to move to a model like the middle school and the high school probably.
I have
maybe on
ideas for that,
a few days.
where, you know, I think we have to be thoughtful about who comes to school and who doesn't.
Right.
I'm talking like grade wise, and
Mhm.
I have a plan that we mapped out.
Right, I
We
remember you shared
to
that.
do that,
Yep.
but yes, that would,
Roads and-
we have to revisit that model.
Yes,
Can I give one of the 13 weeks for everybody?
no,
No.
let's do the mark,
Because it's a mark.
10 and 13, we'll put the specific date. The other piece that,
It is, but it's hard. I don't know how you, I don't know how you do it.
No, there's no good.
the other change that we have to talk about is pre-K, the pre-K program. And I think,
So do you want me
this
to,
is
do you want me to present and then we'll talk?
Yeah.
Okay. Carrie, could you please go back to the pre-K slide?
And just for anybody that wants to call in, just know, when we get done, we'll allow everybody time to call in. I don't want someone to feel like they have to sit on hold for 20 minutes or half an hour. This is long, so I apologize, but you'll get your opportunity.
So everyone knows how I feel about pre-K, and I think that this is the foundation of where learning starts. And I'm taking the long view, and I'm thinking that our youngest kids, if they're missing out, we're going to see this in later years. So I feel strongly that we have a pre-K program. I know that we need space at John Marshall, so I recognize that a grade needs to move out. And we had different discussions about what grade that should be, and we landed on pre-K, given that they don't have as many mandates, as many requirements, testing, PE requirements, all those things. So we discussed possibly having it in high school. James was gracious enough to find 3 rooms for us. And in order to keep class size very small, we were looking at doing an AM and PM session, not adding more kids, keeping the existing enrollment and just having half the kids in the morning, half the kids in the afternoon, 5 days a week. So they'd come every day, Monday through Friday. I understand the challenges of having little kids in a high school building. I know parents are concerned about that. It would alleviate a lot of our parking problems at John Marshall, especially if a lot of people are not taking the bus. We need less cars around there. We already had issues with that in the past. We have a great team. I think we would probably have to go down to 3 sections or 6 sections with the current enrollment, and which would work well because we have a large kindergarten class, so we've opened another kindergarten section. But I understand that, you know, there are some concerns about this, but I just wanted to state my feelings, and that I think this is an important program. My concerns are that we won't get it back. And we put so much into this, and we made a commitment to the community that this is something that we were going to be providing. And I know pulling it out, the rug out from folks right now, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, I don't think is fair.
And so the best case scenario is pre-K would be a half a day. So that we're comparing apples to apples, and it would be in the high school.
2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Half a day.
Yeah, and listen, you're preaching to the choir on the value of pre-K. I mean,
We did this for years before you came.
Yeah, and I'm gonna just state my position. If anything, it would be a pause and not a permanent, it will come back. I mean, if COVID allows and the scenario allows, I have no question that it would come back in my personal opinion. And I think we could find ways and fight to keep it. And I would certainly do that. But I think we have to look at the realities of where we are. I mean, we talked about pre-K being at the high school at the very beginning. And that was one of the ideas that was floated. I mean, it was talked about years ago. And Hampton Bays, we went, did Adam, you go with us on that trip?
I've seen it.
I know you've seen it. I know Christina and I went, Rich went, we went on a field trip, Wendy went. We went and walked through it, and it worked very well at their high school because we wanted to see it for ourselves. We did look at it. It worked very well. I think the older kids liked the little kids. I think it was really kind of cool. So in that sense, I think that was good. But at the same time, we've got pushback from other sections not to have it at the high school. It's a tough one, but I think if people think of it more as a pause and it's not an elimination. It can't be, because I don't think anybody here supports that.
No.
I don't know. You can look around the table, and nobody here says, "Hey, listen,
I
do
just
away with
don't
it."
think 2.5 hours. But I don't even see every parent being able to do that if they're working. I mean, at least a half a day, you have your lunch to pick them up and drop them off. But 2.5 hours, to me, I don't know. I don't see it happening. I mean, for parents that are staying home, yes.
Parents
you
are
got
saying
grandparents to
they're
pick you up.
plotting in the afternoon or the morning.
Well, it's also what happens if we do have to, which is, maybe very likely, if we do have to close school for periods and go all remote, we're not doing that for pre-K.
You can't.
So it's really a worthless endeavor at that point, because if it's long-term, then we effectively have no pre-K anyway. So.
And I think just in our circumstances, we have to really.
Beth, how many people are registered for pre-K?
Well, we need to really know
52.
for sure.
52.
53.
What did we have last year?
Yeah,
68.
Can't be in the
52 kids.
No, they can't be in the elementary school, so that's part of the conversation. And I don't think.
I think we ought to postpone it till January, but not cancel it. Not cancel it, but postpone the start of pre-K if we can. And of course, if we could, we'd love it to be at John Marshall. And I think only if the governor allows bigger classrooms, and this virus, maybe there's a vaccine in January and we can get back to normal, we certainly would then want pre-K back at John Marshall, if we could fit it.
But the understanding is, pretty much at this point, there's the choice of having it here half day at the high school or not having it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
That's where we're at.
We're not looking at in any way, shape, or form keeping it at John Marshall right now,
That's right.
because we need the space,
Well, we're also going to need that staff.
and we might need that staff.
Because we're not gonna get
for
some.
elementary school.
I mean, I think also we're thinking about cutting programs. We don't know how many people are going remote.
Right.
So I might have space in my building. I
Right.
don't know at this point. So I think that data is going to be
But
very
I think to be fair to parents, though, I think they have to look at us saying, listen, we don't know. And listen, if things worked out, I'd be fine with that. If we get our final hard numbers and you say, hey, I can have it, I'm all for it
So
personally.
what about the parent that's going to opt out and say they want their child to do virtual pre-K? I mean, that's not
an option.
That's not an
that can't be an option.
It's
So
not an option. I've already communicated that.
So that
So if we close down as a district
It goes
and have
away
to go
anyway.
online. We have no pre-K. That's
We
what
can
I'm saying.
do virtual
There's no-
pre-K. We did it in the spring. At the beginning of the year, it is not ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just don't think
That's
that it's,
If we closed in January, we could do it.
yeah.
At the beginning of the year, it's would be very.
You're trying to get people started is very difficult.
Yeah.
And did you want to talk about the substitute issue, like what we could use the staff, the pre-K staff could be repurposed where they're actually really needed?
that's the real issue, and like, the board, we're very worried about sub-issues, and the sub-issues are from normal sicknesses. A teacher might have a fever, not COVID related, gets the flu for 3 days.
Are there sick kids at home?
Yeah,
We don't really have a sub-pool at this point, and I'm really with that. I'm not really sure how we're gonna do that.
But
Listen,
if you have 8, because we have 4 teachers in pre-K and we have 4 TAs.
It's probably gonna be, it sounds like Beth said, that we need somebody to go to kindergarten. So I think it's gonna be 3 and 3.
So it'd be 6.
It'd be
Okay.
6 people.
But they would be available to fill in for.
1 a.m. and a p.m.
School board, this is LTV. When you're ready to take a call, let me know.
okay, thank you. I think we have to look at this from a realistic point. And the fact is, there's nobody, I don't think, that supports pre-K anywhere on the East End more than this board has supported pre-K. But I think we also are very real and understand that there's things that we never had to deal with before, and we are now faced with them. And to keep the students that we're legally obligated to educate, to keep them safe and in school, I don't think we have a lot of choice. I don't think this is like a, yes, I like it, no, I don't. It's a fact. I think that we can't provide it. And I don't think it's by any choice of our own. I think if you get numbers in that say, hey, listen, I got 100 people that are opting out, and I now have room, I have no problem with going forward, and we'll figure out the sub situation. I think it probably can be done. It's another sort of side effect.
Especially with a 13-week commitment.
Right, with a 13-week commitment. If you get that, I'm
But
one
again,
for
in
throwing.
week 14, everything changes again.
Absolutely. But listen, every 13
Week
weeks,
11 at the other schools,
it's going to be fluid.
everything changes again.
As you said earlier, fluid. Fluid's the word,
Right.
Pause and fluid. It's just what it is, I mean, and if you look at
numbers stay down, we could be looking for positive, really being positive about what.
Yes, absolutely. I don't think there should be a negative vibe to it. I think it's just this is what we have today, and we're working with this information. It's going to change. It's going to go up or it's going to go down. Probably isn't going to stay the same. It's going to go one way or another. But let's put our best foot forward to keep the kids that we're obligated to teach them safe and in the building, because pre-K, listen, we didn't have it at one point, and we didn't have kindergarten at one point.
I'll make this
And this board
suggestion.
fought to get it full day.
Yes,
I'll make this suggestion,
And
that
they
we
huge
will not start pre-K unless we can do it at John Marshall. And that in January, we consider running it. But if we can't have pre-K in John Marshall, we're not starting pre-K.
It's a pretty fair statement, honestly. I mean, it is. I mean, let's.
Well, we do need the space and the staff.
But that's not saying in January,
It's going to be.
we will revisit and maybe we could have it. If we don't have the
We're going to have to revisit it in
sub-problem,
November
Right.
to get it ready for January. But
I think we're gonna have a sub-problem. You're not gonna find outside subs. You're just not gonna find them. And therefore, we need the pre-K people to keep our program viable.
And I think that this board can commit, and listen, unless there's a financial issue, that we can't control, I'm committed to bringing it back. I mean, I want,
No, we are committed.
Yeah,
to
this
pre-K.
is temporary pause.
Coming back.
yeah, I mean, listen,
Committed.
unless something else happens, and I don't know what 2021 is going to bring, but unless something else happens that doesn't allow it, and we can't control it, if we can control it, it comes back.
Mhm.
And I think that's a fair statement. Does
Well,
anybody?
I think we need to be number one. I think it needs to be very clear. This is not a financial decision.
No.
It's not a financial decision. From what we discussed before, when this is briefed, is our chief medical officer is very concerned about pre-K. Is that correct? Did I hear you correctly?
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I would say, and this is very
The parents.
disappointing. I mean, this is new information, and I think this board and myself have a very strong commitment to pre-K. So like, I'll say unequivocally, pre-K is a program that's part of our school. That said, I'm just like looking at the news today, and every hour brings a story of a school reversing itself, universities, and going back on plans to be in person. And you know, I anticipate, unfortunately, that we're going to be virtual at some point, you know, fully virtual at some point this year, just based on what it looks like it's happening with, you know, epidemiology and all of that. So
That's why I just want us to make it perfectly clear to all of the parents, like, we are not promising anything. We are not promising anything. Everything is fluid. So, you know, that's the problem. I mean, we had that with, you know, where we all had an agreement about, you know, the dual language last year and everyone was on camera saying it. And then next thing you know, everyone's changing their minds. So we need everybody to understand that what we're telling you right now is fluid, but things are changing. So, you know.
But it's based, there's nothing based on financials. This is based on, it's based on a school medical officer saying she's not comfortable with pre-K coming back. Is that correct?
I was just addressing Beth's concern that it wouldn't come back. And I think that was probably sort of just a general question. I think it could go financial in the future. And I think that's the question. No one has a crystal ball, but we have no reason to believe we would not bring it back. We don't. And I wanted to put Beth at ease that we're not trying to change our mind by any sense. This is a circumstantial decision, not an economical decision. It's not anything more than safety for the kids that we have to educate. And I think we have to make that commitment to the ones that we have to educate. You know, there's further discussions that can go on for kindergarten for that matter. You know, I don't want to have them, but it's real.
That changed
Right.
last year.
By the way,
It's required.
the dual language,
It was 6 years old, now it's required kindergarten.
am I right?
One thing at a time. Let's handle
The
it.
dual language is not virtual, cannot be virtual.
Just in kindergarten.
If somebody is in a dual language program, can't be virtual.
Just in kindergarten.
So the first grade can be,
Yes,
they can choose.
because they already have the letters, the sounds, the
Okay.
basics. You can't do that virtually in kindergarten.
Matt, do we just a quick question? How many callers do we have waiting? Do we have anybody?
We have 2 callers waiting.
Is the board ready to take some questions?
So what am I saying tomorrow to my parents about pre-K?
I say no. Unfortunately, I'd say we can't have it.
Well,
It's just
until we know the numbers. If everything really hinges on the numbers.
Yes, it
So
does.
we need to know the numbers, but also, you know, you already have 43 new enrollees.
No, 43 remote learners.
Okay, how many new
53, and most are in drawing room.
Right,
So,
so
but
what-
this is
and-
over
and-
a period of time.
And parents can enroll their children
Up
until
until
the
last
first day
minute.
of school, so
Right.
that number
And
may have an
expert-
impact too,
Right,
and we don't
probably.
have a number from our parents yet. So I would say we're not cutting.
I think parents should be
until we know we
prepared.
have to.
Yeah, but some of those new parents could go virtual.
That's true.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Absolutely. We don't know.
But we
We
don't
need
know.
to tell our parents that we're cutting
I think
pre-K when
we
we
need to-
don't know, we might not have to.
That's right.
I think we need to tell parents to be prepared not to have it.
Right,
If we can have it, we will, but be
You
prepared.
have it at John Marshall,
no. It won't be.
If
we
we
have
can
it this
have
year.
it,
you know?
Is a possibility.
If
Beth
I-
is gonna look at the numbers.
Right, but I mean, you're
Once
not
we get
having it at the high school.
commitment back. Once
If
we get
they
the
decided-
commitment, we'll know.
We don't know.
Not
I don't think we
having it
should
at the
make
high
that
school.
decision.
We don't know. We don't know yet. We need to make decisions based on data, and we don't have the data yet, and we need to get the data by.
But we've been recommending not to have it here at the high
Monday
school.
or Wednesday, we have to decide. When do you think we can get the commitment form
I
out?
think Wednesday's fair. I think that's safe.
Let's do
I'll have it to the form
We don't
tomorrow,
Yep.
but it's gotta go out, it'll go out with, school messenger calls, I'll send, school messenger out in English and Spanish for just opt out of instructional program, in-person instruction.
We
Yes,
should
we
do
will know.
one form.
Yep.
Yes,
Separated.
Yeah.
yes, one
Yeah.
simple
Yeah.
form.
So it's all in one.
English,
page.
Spanish,
So you
Spanish.
don't have to opt in, you're opted in
You're
already,
automatic, we
you don't
think
have
you're,
to opt out.
yes, you're opting out of school.
You're
We
coming less
expect you to be here.
Right,
You're opting out, you're saying you are buying into the remote model.
and you
That's
have to
your-
do that by
That is your
Wednesday.
commitment form, yes, it'll go out, yes.
So I'll
And,
get back to you on
Yeah, but
Wednesday.
you're not gonna-
right, well, that's.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
because-
that's
Well,
fair.
right now, it's not looking good.
We don't have to make
Yeah.
So
it.
they're being prepared.
But I think some parents should sort of start to, make alternative plans that you may need to use. I don't want you to,
I
but
have to make it for 2.5 hours. I don't.
you're gonna make plans anyway. You're gonna make plans. And I don't know if all the parents realize that it's 2.5. I think maybe some do, and the best has communicated with. But is the board ready? Did you have any questions?
I have a question, but my question can wait if you want. to.
Yeah, let's go, if you don't mind.
I just don't, I want the principal, all three principals, my
You
question.
have 4 callers.
Four, great. Matt, can you go to the first caller?
I can on your command.
Go ahead.
Also, I'm gonna have you need to speak up.
Please stand by.
Okay.
Maybe it's the mask.
Yeah.
It is, it's definitely.
Yeah.
Because I can hear you guys better.
Yeah.
And we're far enough.
Oh, we're probably on part, yes.
Let me try.
I'm just gonna ask the caller to state their name and the district of residency when they do call. So
First and last.
first and last name and the district of residency. And so be prepared when you call in that I ask you 3 times if you can't hear me. But
Somebody's on now.
Caller, can you hear me, caller?
Can't hear the call.
Caller.
We should also, callers have a landline, so please use your landline because we can barely hear anybody on these cell phones.
I know, it's so bad.
Caller, can you hear me? This is LTV.
you can go ahead and just move on to the next one. They'll call back. I'm sorry, but we'll be here all night.
Okay.
When's the last time we left in the dark? You were saying.
It's been a while.
Caller, can you hear me? Caller. Caller, can you hear me, caller?
Yes.
We're on live.
Good evening, caller. If you can just state your full name and your district.
Callers have a landline, so please use your landline because we can barely hear anybody on the cell phone.
Yes.
Caller, can you hear me? This is LTV.
Yes, I can.
Caller, are you there?
Can you hear anything, anyone?
Caller, Jackie, hang on. Caller, you're going to have to turn down your TV.
Can you hear us, Matt?
Caller, can you hear us? This is LTV. It sounds like there's a huge delay.
Yeah, there does. Put you on delay? Of course. I don't know, Matt. Maybe move on to the next one, see how it goes. Hopefully we'll get some success.
Hello, caller. Caller.
Yeah. Seems like a delay.
Is it every caller?
So far,
I don't know. 2, that's been.
didn't have this issue last time.
We're fine last time.
Hello, caller. Caller.
I was close to that one. It was a problem.
Yeah, today
I'm
was.
losing calls on Newtown Lane.
Yeah. Between Sacramento is usually bad between here and Sacramento, but I couldn't make any phone calls. Nothing.
From my house all the way out to the highway to Wayne Shop, couldn't make it.
Worse today than last month.
I think today was
Yeah,
the
it
worst.
was.
Would it work out better? And then also it would.
I had to
It's
use
easy.
my landline all day. Every time somebody called me, they were like, I say hi, they say hi, and I say, how are you?
Yep.
TV was-
I played that phone go all day long.
Hello, caller. This is LTV.
What are we down to, Matt?
Hello?
Anybody?
There we go.
Yeah.
Caller, you're live. If you can state your full name and your district of residency, please. Nope, maybe not.
It's just late.
It wasn't as bad last time.
No, last time it worked pretty well.
I'm sorry, caller. You just you faded out. Can you please? Can you hear us?
You know, we should consider using the chat feature.
Yeah.
Because this is becoming a chronic problem, and I know like when we do the ones for the college ones, they present.
There we go. Can you hear us, caller?
And we ask questions in chat. And
It's
then they answer
delayed.
live.
He's hearing it if he's responding like
Yeah.
coming in later.
So we would see all
Hello,
the questions.
caller. This is LTV. Hello, caller.
Hello?
Hello.
No.
Hello?
Hello. Yes.
Hello?
This is Sal's phone to P3.
Caller, if you can hear me, just state your full name and your district of residency, please.
Easy.
It's like Windows 3
Yeah.
Right?
Windows 98.
School board, just calm down a second, please. Caller, can you hear me? I think I can hear you, but can you hear us? Hello, caller.
Matt, do you want to just have us go back to we have a few more things to discuss. Do you want to give it some time maybe and see if things get better?
Maybe chat.
Yeah, or have people,
Sure,
people
sure, JP.
text the message into chat?
I don't.
No, because they'd have to have been on the Zoom.
Yeah,
They'd have
yeah,
to
the
send it
Zoom.
out.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
the
they can't.
YouTube.
Yeah.
So for next time, what you do is you just send a link. And then anybody gets on it, they can't talk to us, but they can chat
Right.
the question.
All right, caller. Hello, caller.
Maybe it's, yeah, it must be the delay.
So I didn't say, but I have, if this is an elementary question, I have a meeting tomorrow at 9 and tomorrow at 6:30. So feel free to join.
Yeah, I think it's also really important for the board just to make I'm going to speak for myself, but I'm the one that responds to the emails that the board receives. A lot of people are asking questions, and I know they don't want to either speak at the board meeting. In tonight's case, you couldn't if you wanted to, by the sounds of it. So I apologize for that. But if you could, maybe direct your questions to the building principals, I think they can answer more specific than we can as a board. Listen, this board supports what our principals need. If they need something, they'll come to us. And if you're not satisfied or you are not getting the answer you're looking for, I don't know if maybe that's more of an appropriate time to go to the superintendent, assistant superintendent, and work your way up. I mean, we want to be as transparent as we can, but a lot of the questions that are getting emailed to us are they're up to the building level,
Yeah, it's more questions and opinions.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting questions like, have we talked about nurses? And as you saw tonight, we hired 2 nurses, 1 to replace and 1 as an additional. We're asking, people asking a question, hey, did you guys talk to anybody in the medical field? Well, we have a chief medical officer. People don't know that because in mundane, usual years, you hear us approve it at our reorg meeting and then you never hear it again. Those people are spoken with, but it's not as public as it is today. So I think it's important for people to know we do have a chief medical officer. We do have medical people on staff. We are getting guidance from the New York State Health Department. We're getting guidance from the New York Education Department. There's a superintendents that meet on the East End. They meet countywide. So there's a lot of discussion that goes by. And I think if you just know that that's part of what we are trying to accomplish here. But if you have a question, email your building level principal, call them, whatever you need to do. And they're having meetings, they're obligated to have meetings as well. And go to their, I think Beth said that her meeting's tomorrow.
Spanish speaking tomorrow night. I'm doing with the Spanish speaking community.
Yeah, so if you have a question, call in and ask to your building. Because I think you'll get quicker, more accurate answers than if it gets filtered through us and I have to call and ask the principal because I may not know. I mean, I think that's part of what we're sort of dealing with. So if you could do that, it would be appreciated. And we have a couple other things quick to talk about.
JP?
I'm sorry. Yes.
May I try one more time?
Absolutely.
Okay, please stand by.
Got it written down?
Caller, can you hear me? Caller, can you hear me? This is LTV.
Actually, they can email us and we can get them in response on now.
Caller, if you can hear me, you are live with the board.
Actually, email me.
Yeah.
If people are having
That's a good idea, Christina.
getting through, they can email BOE@ehschools.org right now, and we all have our phones here, so we can get the email. Unless the Wi-Fi breaks.
That's a good idea.
Say one more time, BOE.
BOE@ehschools.org.
Hello?
And then we can read the
Hello,
question out
caller?
loud.
Hello?
Yes, hello.
I can hear you.
Okay, you're on.
Caller, if you can hear me, if you could just state your full name and your district of residency.
Hello?
Yes, hello. Yes, hello.
We have a question already. You want me to, for Charlie?
Okay.
Large,
Fair enough.
how large class sizes for the lower? It was 18 to 25 in the past. Now,
Caller, I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to turn your TV down.
You can just disconnect the caller, it's not working. We're gonna just go with the email now.
Okay.
Thank you. I know it's not, nothing you can do about it.
so it's half of that.
Yeah.
So, Chrissy, do you want to read the question again, or did Charlie
It's
hear it?
about class sizes in the lower grades and the middle school. What,
So our average is right now like 16. 21 are the kindergarten dual language. And those will be moved out of classrooms to allow for lots of space. But average is about 16, but it's increasing.
right,
And it depends on the
So we may need to open sections, but again, that also depends on how many choose remote learning. It could bring that number down.
Right.
It will bring that number down.
Yep.
And Beth, the mock-up classroom could house how many students?
So we put it in sort of a horseshoe and use the perimeter in the middle, and there were 19 desks.
And properly socially distanced.
Yes.
And you add that with math requirements and plexiglass dividers for every single student. We have not gotten guidance from the state. I want to be very clear on or what. So if you can't social distance, you have to wear a mask. They have not clarified that. I'm going to give Dave Wicks, the superintendent for Eastern Suffolk BOCES, a call tomorrow to try to get clarification again on that. So whereas there's different desk measurements and how we calculate it, we don't know if you have the plexiglass and the mask, are we good to go? So.
And so we are projecting how many kids in the class?
It all depends how many choose remote learning.
What's the maximum?
21
21.
for the
So-
dual language.
But that's not in the classroom, that's in a
That's
larger
in a
bigger
room.
space. That's in a larger space.
How many can you do in a standard room, basically? I think that may be a better.
I would say 18 can do, like, to really be sure we're meeting the 6 feet.
Yep.
We were able to get in the 19th one, but I would say
18 is safe.
18 is.
Okay. Hopefully that answers the caller's question. Apologize if you can't call in.
And
and Charlie,
Charlie,
what would your average class size be, or like max?
We would typically work 18 to 28, and we would be with the cohorts 9 to 14. So assuming that things remain as they are.
correct.
We do have another question from Charlotte Sasso, who is an Emma Gansett parent. During live streaming, will students be able to fully participate in class, or will the experience be limited? James, that's a high school, she was a high school student.
Yeah, at the high school, the plan is for them to be able to interact with the teacher. And so that way there's a flow of information that goes back and forth. It should feel as if they're there. And the key feature in speaking with the teachers, because the teachers have some really creative ideas, some that I'd never even thought of. But the key feature, kind of the non-negotiable, is the ability to have a back and forth dialogue with the student if need be.
Can we see the chat? There are questions apparently coming in through the chat.
I think that's just, I think it was Carrie and, yeah, I think it was just Carrie.
That's Carrie and
Can I ask, because
Jason.
people are asking if there's.
Will kids be, is BOCES going to be open? BOCES
Oh,
10,
okay.
and our high school students will be going.
Yeah, some both accounts, yep.
Okay, now special ed students, are they going to, in high school and middle school, will they only do the cohort 2 days on and 3 days off, or will they will we consider them going the 5 days, since they were usually in small groups anyway?
I'll speak for the high school. I think me and Charlie on the same page. As for our alternately assessed students, they will be able to come full time.
Correct. James and I talked about that, but it would only be the kids that are alternatively assessed. Otherwise, they would be the cohort model like everyone else.
Elementary school, they'll be there every day anyway. And life skills, James, is that going to go every day?
Yeah, that's the alternately assessed group.
Okay. Those are my three
And
questions.
is BOCES running?
Yeah, I missed that.
Oh, yes, sorry, I was.
BOCES is going to run.
I had a quick question. The start of school is usually the Wednesday after Labor Day. Is that still going to be, or I heard something about virtual, anyway,
We spoke about
Yeah.
that. We
Yeah. So the plan, in talking to the principals, talking to the assistant principals, the current plan up for discussion right now is the first day of staff back, we get the first PD day, but the superintendent's day, the Tuesday coming back, typically students would report on that Wednesday. We would like to forego that and give another day of teacher prep for the teachers, maybe to reach out, make some connections at the secondary level, 6 through 12. The Friday, September 10th, would be sixth grade. Thursday, September 10th would be sixth grade and ninth grade, half of each of those grades. And then 9/11, which would be Friday, would be half of sixth grade, half of ninth grade. That acts as their orientation. They get the building to themselves. At the high school, there would be approximately between 100 and 120 kids in, and Charlie would be obviously less than that. Beth, as of right now, and it's all got to be, it's fluid, of course, is looking to do on the 10th, Thursday, K through 2, and the 11th, K through 2. Half days.
So the startup really for kids, not
14th.
sixth grade or ninth grade would be the 14th.
The 14th would be full bore, here we go.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Right, so we have another email, which is actually more of a commentary than a question. Okay, David Powers, who I believe is an East Hampton district parent. It seems there's space and teachers for pre-K. Abandoning 52 students at this time seems like a very bad idea. Very few of these students will be able to find alternative learning options.
That's true.
Therefore, next year's kindergarten classes will be kids who skipped an entire year of learning. I believe we should do everything in our power to provide educational options for pre-K students.
I agree.
I don't think anybody disagrees. I think it's
Right.
a circumstantial thing.
Depending on the numbers and.
And it's not for the whole year. I think we were clear about that.
But we're considering postponing it till January, and we'll start it as soon as we can get it at John Marshall. And the reason we don't want it at the high school is not adequate. And we, right now, are gonna have a sub problem. And
We
that
need the
sub
staff
problem
in the space in order to accommodate K through 5.
yeah, can be abated by using our pre-K people as subs. We're
And
not gonna be able to get outside subs.
And I don't think it's gonna be, listen, I'm speaking as someone that doesn't have to deal with it, so I'm just gonna preface it with that, but they're already dealing with a 2.5-hour day. We're not talking about we're cutting full pre-K to 0. We're going for 2.5 hours. I think it's a little bit easier of an adjustment than it is going from the full day. The big adjustment already happened when you lost the full day and went to it's not even a half day. It's a third of a day. So, and I don't want to leave it out either, but I listen.
But we might consider, if you get 2 classrooms at John Marshall, we might consider running an AM and PM program.
Possibility.
If we could do it at John Marshall.
Hard.
Gotta get the number.
Again, we don't even know how many kids are going to enroll in the next 3 weeks before school starts. There's a lot of unanswered
What's happening in
questions.
other districts?
Like, Beth, last year, how many pre-K classes did you have classrooms? 4. So if we could find 2 classrooms at John Marshall, we could run an AM and PM program. And I would be in favor of doing that.
Yeah, I think, again, we need to know the numbers and
Yeah.
Like the numbers.
find space and
I'm in favor of it, just to be
Right,
clear.
yeah.
I mean, I'm in favor of it too. I think everybody's.
Right.
I think, can we just make it like, I mean, it's a fluid decision right now. Everything is very fluid right now.
There's no firm decision.
Right.
Except for the fact that if you're in that category, you should have a plan B.
Right.
That's the only thing I can say.
All right, so this is an email from Amanda Frazier, regarding dual language. I don't know what district.
She must be.
East Hampton Kindergarten. Oh, yeah. Dual language, okay. I'm the parent of a kindergarten student in the dual language program. She won a spot in the lottery. I received an email yesterday telling me that if she does not return for the first session of in-person learning, she will lose her spot and it will be given to someone on the wait list.
Yes.
This is not fair and it penalizes families who choose remote learning. Dual language is the only class that the school is insisting be filled with 21 students. It is an aggressive number compared to every other school in the district and neighboring districts. Why can't the school offer remote learning to the K dual language program when it did last spring and it will for the first graders? And how is kicking kids out of the program acceptable after you held a lottery? I appeal this decision. Please figure out a way not to penalize kids whose parents may select remote learning. Tell me that my child is going to lose her spot in the 6-year enrichment program if we select remote learning is putting a gun to my head. There must be a better way. There's not really a question in there. Does anybody want to?
Well, you explained to us how that kindergartner, pre-K, it's hard for them to learn the dual language on remote, on the virtual.
So that would require, beginning of kindergarten, this is a kindergarten, beginning of kindergarten, learning letters and sounds remotely is a very difficult task. I mean, I've never seen it done. It would also require a bilingual teacher, which, we can never find. I think that we're doing the best we can, given all of the obstacles that are put in front of us right now. I would love to do that. I just don't even know how. We had conversation with Elizabeth, and I don't know. I don't have a solution because that is something that we can't figure out.
Are you thinking in terms of the FLES program? Is that an option for remote learners? Are you thinking that way?
Same issues probably, right? Somewhere?
What's the FLES program?
There's only one FLES teacher, and they're teaching 3 grades.
So is kindergarten going to have a FLES?
Yeah, K1 and 2 will have FLES.
So perhaps this particular parent has to be involved with the FLES program. So there are some Spanish skills. I know it's completely different.
They will have FLES.
They would have
So if they have FLES, and if somehow the option is remote, which I totally understand.
Yeah, I would have to figure that out.
With some type of enrichment with FLES, maybe there's some way of that student, when they do enter into kindergarten, if they decide to come back in person, maybe there'd be enough skills learned that would enable a transition.
And you would
So-
you would have to hold the spot though instead of filling it with somebody else from the
So-
lottery.
So that's
So
almost what I'm
might be
thinking,
an
that
issue too.
maybe we should rethink the decision that way, and that remote for kindergarten dual language, those spots are not filled. They're still held for that parent, because that seems to be fair.
That's fine with me.
Because they
And
have the
then-
lottery. they didn't
And
get
then
the
they went according to the lottery, so it's fair. We see if there's a possibility of that flex enrichment, enabling that student to make progress, and then there's some type of assessment that would allow them to enter the program at a later time.
But here's the problem. What happens when that kid goes into the program and they're not prepared and they can't function?
But that's what I'm saying is an assessment. So
Right.
there's an
But when they
assessment.
can't, but is that
But
gonna
then
be
you,
the
but then
next
you
fair
prevent somebody else
question?
from taking
Right.
the spot that could have fulfilled
Well,
that.
but not-
I'm fine with not, I'm
And now
fine with
that-
not filling the spot to keep class size down.
Yeah.
But we would need to speak with Elizabeth, about an assessment and the linguistic
I mean, it seems like,
before we come out with lottery fair.
Yeah, but I mean, we didn't know we were gonna deal with this either.
Right.
You know, I mean, when we held the
Yeah, I mean, this
lottery.
is not our fault,
No, I mean,
so, you know.
and here's the other thing. There's a
Maybe we
lot
can
of,
figure out a solution.
I'm
there's a lot of
happy to
difficult decisions.
To look into this and discuss it further.
Let's look.
Beth, it
Yeah.
seems like, I mean, it seems like what we're talking about here is we're talking about at John Marshall now the 10-week option, correct? Like that semester. So someone would miss theoretically 10 weeks of it if they weren't there. Is that correct?
They're about 13, we're doing trimester.
13 weeks. So is there, what you're saying, is there a way that we're going to have some online coordinators or little chat groups or something like that? Is there a way to take a FLUS teacher and have a separate chat group for those kids, those dual language kids?
There's only one FLUS teacher.
Who goes in,
Right.
she's already teaching three grades.
Yeah.
Listen, if it can be worked out, great, but there's a lot.
I'm just wondering if there's a way to do that.
Help in here.
Right.
What do you got to do?
I'll look into it further. I think I know who the parent is, and you know, I understand her concern, and you know, we'll see what we can do.
But
Thank
we've
you.
decided we're not gonna let them lose their spot. Is that a decision, or we're
I
still
don't think
working?
so.
I think we can make that.
I think that's, Beth will figure that out.
Okay.
Because you can't lose an opportunity either. I don't think that's fair.
What about
That's
after
fair.
13 weeks?
We want this program to also be successful.
How about after 13 weeks, she's gotta come back in?
You can't even, no one's gonna say yeah. They're not gonna
Can't force that.
No.
Can't force it.
Right.
But then she loses her spot.
Yeah, well, you know,
Maybe if-
no,
We are in uncharted territory here, and so, for every, person that we make happy, we're also having sometimes another person that is not happy, and that's just, we're not gonna make everybody
So what it
happy
is.
here, yeah. Erin Tupper, who is an East Hampton district parent. Good evening, this is Erin Tupper. As you know, my children attend John Marshall. I tried calling in several times, but it did not work. I appreciate all the effort the Board of Ed and administrators have put into their plans, and thank you for sharing them. My main question, as Ms. Doyle mentioned, relates to class size solely in John Marshall. Why is it that East Hampton High School has made it a priority to reduce class sizes to a maximum of 13 students, East Hampton Middle School to between 9 and 14, and John Marshall's class sizes remain unchanged with up to 21 students per class? I'll interrupt right there and say because the others are on halftime and you're on 5 days.
And
So
there's also, there's 13 kids in a class, but they go to 5 different classes. I think people are forgetting that. It's not the same, they're not with the same 13 kids all
Right.
day long. At elementary school, you're with the same group all day long.
I do understand it is because JMMES is in person for the full 5 days, but that doesn't excuse it. And now, as you mentioned, there is increasing enrollment. It does not seem possible that you can distance 20 desks or around that number 6 feet apart. Matatuck School just recognized this. You are knowingly putting our youngest children in an environment that, by design, according to the CDC and in direct violation of the New York State Ed Department guidelines, puts them at the greatest risk in the district for contracting and spreading COVID-19.
we'd have to measure the room first to start with. Each room size is gonna be.
Again, well, there's specific guides, like I just had said before, there's specific guidance, there's different measurements. They're finally saying, maybe it's from the edge of the desk, we measure from the center of the desk. We have not received any guidance regarding the measurement of desks in the classroom that have additionally kids being fully masked and with plexiglass. The state had not said that. They said, is it or, socially distanced or mask and everything? So the bottom line is we have put multiple things in place there. Every desk is spaced from the middle of the desk to the desks around them or the tables around them. Every kid is fully masked, and there's a plexiglass, 3-sided plexiglass thing. Kids are not allowed to change seats,
And they're 6 feet apart.
Correct. And if we get guidance that differs from that we're.
Or if enrollment goes up,
will change.
And we're not having 21 kids in any of those classrooms unless they go into a bigger room.
Exactly.
Right.
21 is just the dual language classes, and they'll be in a bigger space. Right now, it's about 17, but that minus 43 remote, and I'm sure there are going to be more remote. So, if I had to guess, I would say that, again, I don't know. I don't want to put a number out there because we could
Well,
get
she
more
sent a
kids.
follow-up question.
Okay,
You cannot rely on students to choose remote to reduce class sizes. What if they all come?
right.
They can return in 5 or 10 weeks and increase class size again anyway.
Plus then we have a different
These are
plan.
all points you're
That would be a
making,
whole
right? You
different-
And then we
say
have Plan B.
there's no guarantee for this model because it is flawed and partially reliant on people choosing remote, but parents need to prepare for the school year. What is your max class size? What's your plan B? I appreciate the board's discussion about pre-K, which from my own experience last year with Deb Bolin and Jamie Hansen was incredible. But like Mr. Ryan and JP said, perhaps putting the pre-K on pause during the pandemic will free up teachers to further split the JMMES grade levels into smaller class sizes. Thank you for
Still
your
gonna
time.
have classes to put them in.
Excuse me, school board.
Hybrid. Yes.
When you're done with that particular question, we might be able to take calls again, just to let you know.
Or
Got that
emails.
for email.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll get to them when we can. Thank you, Matt.
No problem.
Thanks for letting us know.
This is Nicholas Epstein. Hello to the board and thanks for taking our questions. We are Nick and Danielle Epstein with children at John Marshall and at the middle school. We have two questions. The first one concerns the middle school remote learning program. If our child is at home and following along with the class, will it be possible, easy for him to be able to participate in class discussion?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And regarding our student who is at the elementary level, we understand that the goal is for the kids to not be on screens for too much of the school day. But last year with remote learning, virtually every assignment had to be done on their Chromebook. Will this be the case for the school year going forward? Can you please speak to the balance between instruction and assignments as you foresee it? Finally, any clarification you can give as to the busing situation for in-person students might be helpful. And Beth, I think you talked a little bit about the remote learning at the elementary school. I think you answered those questions already.
I think that will be further clarified tomorrow too during
Okay, during
that
that
meeting.
meeting.
So I think that would be helpful then. Just in terms of the busing, we're sending out surveys now
Okay.
to see who is going to require bus transportation. It's definitely New York state law that we have to provide transportation to every student.
Right.
I know from our district physician, she's strongly encouraging her clients that come to see her that do not take the bus. I hear, again, it's soft numbers that many folks will be bringing their own kids to school. But again, soft numbers, we're hoping to see something more definite when the survey comes back. The survey is probably going to be mailed out tomorrow.
Yeah, we really need to get the numbers nailed down.
Yeah.
Which it'll be a commitment form?
Yes, commitment form for that, yes.
This is from Heather Finn. In the event of a positive COVID test by a student or teacher, will parents be given guidance as far as where to get testing and protocol to follow by the district? Secondly, how will parents be notified of a positive test result in the building? Sixth grade parent is
So let me give everybody the basic. This is following DOH, Department of Health guidance. We as East Hampton School District will handle any positive student case with what we would consider similar to when a child in school has lice. What typically comes out is an email or a letter alerting all parents of a lice outbreak. In this case, through coordination with the principals and the school nurses, again, we thank God we've hired an additional nurse, a letter will go out via email or school messenger alerting all parents in that school of a positive case. From that point on, we have to dial back 48 hours and then start looking for any child, which is defined by the DOH, is defined as being within 6 feet of the infected student for at least 10 minutes. So if I am Johnny on this side of the room and Rich is over there, this is not considered it. It's even with a mask, even though they view the chance of transmission as very minimal, they still say quarantining should take place. So we will have to do that and trace all those kids who came in contact with that person with COVID, and they will all have to quarantine for 14 days, regardless if they go out and get a negative test. In addition to that, we as a district are exploring on-site testing with Southampton Hospital. I've had multiple conversations. Rich has had multiple conversations with the hospital. I believe JP has. I will be speaking to their testing coordinator tomorrow about that and bringing the possibility.
We'll have a little more of a conversation when we get over this, but we are trying to help it'll help our district and it'll help our community. That's another
So
conversation.
legally, if we have a kid that tests positive, that doesn't, in a class of 15 with a staff member, that doesn't mean that all 15 staff members will be quarantined. Just those
That we're
that-
immediately surrounding
It
them.
says
in the
within
last 48 hours.
it's within 6 feet of the infected student for at least 10 minutes. Now, in Beth's building, it's going to be very easy for her to identify those cases because they will have assigned seats. They will not be leaving the classroom. She might have to deal with the bus. She might have to deal with those small kind of variables. At the high school and middle school, tracing that for the nurse is going to be more of a challenge because of the kids interacting outside of a certain cohort level. But on the positive note, middle school kids and high school kids are a little more forthcoming with who they had contact with and discuss, saw in the hallways, talk to in class, and it's even with a mask on. It's even with plexiglass. So, and those parents, I didn't say this, those parents and students will be personally notified by the nurses. So we will not be telling everybody who those kids are, but everybody in the building will know that there is a positive case in East Hampton. Correct.
Sounds.
How do we maintain student privacy then for HIPAA?
As long as we're not sharing a name, we're not allowed. We just got some guidance from our attorneys. Absolutely right.
But as long as we don't release the name, we're not.
Yeah, HIPAA also applies to healthcare providers
Yes.
and insurance companies. I don't think schools are in there, are they?
Yeah.
FERPA might
No.
cover it, but.
We also can't.
We can't
Yeah,
disclose.
right, but what I'm saying.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
But the whole,
But we will alert parents.
It's not gonna be- it's not gonna
If
be
your
like-
child and JP's, I will let them know that a student, I will not say Christina DeSantis student, child, I will then let them
Everyone
know.
will know in 15 minutes.
I'll be all over Facebook.
Right, as long as
Even if it's
they're
wrong.
maintaining what we're supposed to be doing legally, then we can't control it. Right.
And the same with, all of this goes for same with a staff member, just so you know. So we'd have to identify the kids, self-quarantine, testing, the whole rigmarole.
So
And
anyone
again,
that's that close to them on the bus.
yeah, and for more than 10 minutes. So
Right,
again, the elementary kids, when Beth has to go inside, did you sit next to this kid for 10 minutes? That's a challenge. I know my kids don't know what they did 3 minutes ago. So that's going to be more of a challenge.
Well, I know we'll err on the side of caution as well.
Absolutely.
no question.
So
Absolutely.
if you're quarantining for TNH and you're an elementary student that opted for in-person, are we required to educate them remotely? Or are
Yes,
those
I
2
would
weeks?
think
ago?
so, yes.
So there's a variety of options that we will explore, and I have to talk about it. I'll talk about it with Beth. So Beth has put up a pretty comprehensive online model for the kids who choose to be remote. We also have other models which we could use, which would be our iTutor. We have a contract with iTutor, which Tim, we've been very happy with iTutor, and we didn't really utilize their services that much last year, which is a direct with the teacher. So depends on the amount. Because if we have,
And how sick the individual.
yeah, if we have 35 kids quarantining, we'll have to figure that out. Yeah, but we do have the resources to figure that out in place.
This is from Samantha Berman. Can you tell us what the number of children was for John Marshall last year? What is the average case size and what are the numbers of teachers in the K class?
I'm sorry.
The number of children total
Average
for
class size?
JMMES last year, and what is the average kindergarten size and what are the number of teachers?
We ended at 524.
Okay.
And we're at 533 now.
That's with pre-K.
Kids moved. Yes, that's with pre-K.
Okay.
And then there were 4 kindergarten classes.
And what was the average kindergarten size?
Well, it was 21 because of dual language, and then the other 2 classes I think were like 15 and 16, something like that.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah,
More.
one was 12 at the beginning of the
12,
year, but then it grew.
Yeah.
But you are making another section this year because it seems like the enrollment is
I'm
large.
gonna have to make another section of kindergarten and 1st grade,
Wow.
which will bring class size down.
This is from Alexander Balsam. This question is not meant to address a situation when a positive test appears in one of the schools, which we can probably all agree will likely cause a school closure when it happens. Instead, this question is geared towards the John Marshall community and the recognition that young kids get sick fairly frequently. There is rarely a day where an average class does not have a student home sick. So what protocols will be implemented when a student in a given class has a sore throat or a fever that ends up being non-COVID illness? Will the school require a negative COVID test before that child can go back to school? What about that child's siblings? And how would a standard non-COVID illness impact the rest of the class until a negative test is obtained? There are many layers to this onion, none of them taste good.
Nah.
Also tonight, the word fluid is being thrown around a lot tonight. A 13-week commitment does not allow adjustments for a fluid situation. The original proposed 5-week commitment seems much more appropriate. The 5-week commitment is it's not feasible.
The latest, I think it was from DOH, I'm just recalling, but you do not have to have a COVID test if you have a fever. You have to be home free of a fever for at least 2 days. But I think that's an individual choice a parent would make if they wanted to. But
if the
they were
siblings
free,
are fever free, then you don't have to keep them home.
no.
Right.
So and again, but again, I hate to use the word fluid. That's the latest guidance.
Right.
So,
Rich, I'm confused by that. I'm confused by what you're saying. Can you say that again? Because it seems to me that if someone has a fever,
no,
which people have, this day and age, people should be tested, no?
But the guidance says at this point, 48 hours fever free. So a child might be sent home with a fever. The fever breaks because it was a sore tooth. If they're fever free for 2 days, they're allowed to return to school.
Can we clarify that though? That just seems like that's a normal policy. That's right now, that's state health department based on COVID routines?
Yep, that's, I think that could have been from Fraser and Feldman too. I'll find out.
Can we please clarify that? Because we've had some discussions as a board recently, and as you know, I think JP, we're talking about a new business. I'm talking about testing and having more testing and what we'd like to do with respect to testing. So, I mean, I'd like to do more rather than less.
Yeah, and that we're gonna have a follow-up conversation once we get beyond this about COVID testing specifically. So there's a little bit more information, a lot more information coming on that. So
Right, but anyway, I want to flag this part of it because I think that he raises a really important point. And it just seems to me that the one thing that we do know is that COVID strikes everyone very, very differently. And it may well be that there's a kid who has fever for 2 days with COVID and then is fine.
The other side of it is, I mean, we have these, and I don't know if everybody's seen them yet. I got the pleasure to use one the other day. I came in district office, and there's this big thing that looks like kind of like an iPad. And I looked at it, I went over to it, and boop, it took my temperature and told me I was safe. And I came in to see Rich, and Rich brought me into the IT department where there's my picture with my temperature on it, okay? And saying that saying I was normal. And it sort of tells you what's going on. It said my temperature was normal, not that I'm normal.
Yeah.
But so it tells you that information. But then, I went home and I'm watching TV, and then I see Dr. Fauci says, well, temperatures are not really reliable. I don't, we all know that if you have a temperature, you could have COVID, but you could not have a temperature.
Right, right. No, for sure. But I think that points to the importance of the discussion we're going to have, which is, what kind of testing we're going to have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we have to be clear about
And
that.
can we have a district policy that says, hey, listen, if you go home with a fever, you have to get a COVID test?
I don't know about that. I think that's I'll ask that to Harry.
Well, but if we provide the test.
Yeah, that's what I'd like. I'd like to see as much testing as possible. I think that makes our whole community safer.
I don't
know.
I'm not sure.
I mean, God knows we're going to have a lot of extra money from everything that's canceled this year.
Yeah. Not about that. We'll see.
Yeah, when we're cleaning quadruple the amount of time.
No, I mean, look, I mean, but the bottom line is it's a
Amanda Fraser also replied again, then turn it into a merit-based program and test all the kids. Right now it's a lottery.
Yeah, well, That's not how it works. You know, we can't do that. You can't select people based on. That's what's the word for that? Richmond? You know what I mean?
Elitist.
Elitist a little bit. Yeah. I mean, listen, you're good, so you can go, and you're not. Maybe you're in the middle of the road, but you're trying to be the best person, best student we had. You just
And the
can't.
program, remember, was built to provide services for E&L students.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. It's supposed to, the people that need it most are supposed to get that program. That's what it's really for.
But I will see what I can do. I will promise that I will get back to her and try to figure something out.
Appreciate that.
But I mean, the other side of it too is people are going to have to make difficult decisions, just like us not having pre-K. For me to say no pre-K is a big deal. I'm just going to say that, but that's a decision that I have to make. So just like everyone else, you have to make a decision. Right. But I have to make a decision one way or another.
Right.
It's a decision.
But have we made that final decision yet, JP?
No. We have not.
So I just want to, because, I think people are.
I didn't mean to stir that up. All I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't want it out there like there's been a final decision. Yeah, not yet. I think that it is important to have.
Also getting tired, so just bear with me.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're all tired. Yeah, so.
44 hours.
I think that there needs to be a little more discussion on that.
All right, so we have another follow-up question from David Powers about pre-K. The shift from a full day to a half day to 2.5 hours is dramatic, yes, but it's all about preparing our pre-K kids for the school experience. 2.5 hours is far preferable than 0 hours. Expecting kids to show up in 2021, having not gone to school at all for 18 months is misguided. These kids will be so far behind. No socialization, no school experience, no other alternatives available.
There's private options also. So I mean, I don't know what they are, but they are. Do we have phone? Do we have callers back?
I don't say there's private options.
Well,
No, there is not private options. They're all going to be filled up.
We know that.
They're not going to be any private options.
So no one's going to expand and.
The country day school has a waiting list of 40 that they're refusing.
Project Most is trying to figure out something, but they haven't yet.
Maybe that's another avenue.
Project Most, where can they go?
I said they haven't yet. They're trying to figure out something, but they haven't yet.
Here's my point.
Trinity is the only other
I claim
space in town.
Then they have to find staff.
that we should try to get 2 classrooms at John Marshall.
All right,
Run AM and PM, and therefore we have half the staff needed.
Russell's already on.
The subs.
He already has a master.
We're already working on that. That's what we would like to do.
All right, but we are not going to run a pre-K at the high school.
I don't think we should take it. We're not going to take it. Listen, maybe people will want that. I don't know. But do we take that on the table? I don't like the idea, but do we say no just because we're going to make a decision today? Listen, that was on the table 4 years ago.
Right.
I mean, do we have to make some modifications? Let's make them. If that's what makes it better, I don't know. I mean, I don't think we should say no. I mean, you can't have an all or nothing sort of look at it. I don't think. That's just my opinion. But anyway, Matt, how many callers do we have? Because we have callers. Okay, let's just see what do you have for callers, Matt?
We have one caller.
Let's try and go to the caller just to give a fair shake.
We're going to take that, JP?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, give me 1 second, please.
Oh my God, I have some.
Caller, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
All right, here we go.
Or can you state your name, full name, and the district of residency, please?
Of course. Good evening. My name is Stephanie Talmadge Forsberg, and I reside in East Hampton. Just to confirm, everyone can hear me?
You wanted a job, right?
Not what I'm calling about, but thank you.
Stephanie, what do you know about physics?
Oh boy.
Again, not what I'm calling about, but I appreciate it. But first, I do want to just start by thanking the entire school board, all of the administrators, Superintendent Burns. This pandemic has forced you all to go above and beyond your job titles, and you've all put in countless hours of additional work. So thank you all for your time. I do have some questions about the pre-K program. So first, I just want to reiterate that we're incredibly fortunate to have this program, and for that I must thank the current school board, our administrators, for putting that as a community priority. The success of this program for the past 2 years has made me so proud to be part of the school district, so thank you all for that. And we have to thank our entire community for passing this school year's budget, which includes pre-K. So with that said, that's what I'm going to ask you to just focus on, and I'm going to reiterate what Principal Doyle said so eloquently. The foundation of where learning starts is in pre-K. So please, just as we're discussing this and you're discussing and making your decisions, don't close that door. I understand that you're all stretched for staff, resources. We're in this unprecedented pandemic. I get that. But please, in some aspect, don't remove pre-K. And what I mean by that is, could you please consider to keep the remote option open? And I know that there's many hurdles with that. As an educator myself, I see that especially at the youngest level. But move forward with the screenings that are scheduled. And maybe, as has been suggested by Board Member Ryan, John Ryan Sr. this evening, hold on the start date. So maybe we could just say, you know, we're going to take the budget that has had the pre-K, has those educators, has those staff, move them into helping at John Marshall, and we're just going to hold on pre-K for 12 to 13 weeks. It's not ideal, but maybe it would give our families something to hold on to, and meanwhile you can move forward with the screenings. And then just another suggestion, and I know that it isn't necessarily the one that everybody wants to hear, but keep the remote option open. And I know that when we were open and then we closed, it allowed those teachers to have a connection with the students. A fear that I have is that it's going to all go remote by New York State or East Hampton School District, and then because there's no remote option, no matter how small or how minute, with those pre-K students, it'll all disappear if we're entirely remote for a school year. And just as was said by another person who wrote in, you then have no pre-K experience for that class. So I'm just kind of suggesting to you just to keep that door open, maybe consider a hold and a reevaluation in 12 to 13 weeks, but maybe you could move forward on the screenings so those kids have that chance.
Thank you.
Fair statement. I think everybody agrees with you.
Yeah.
You know, I think
We're going to do the screening.
Yeah. Stephanie, we do have an inquiry into New York State if we're able to push back the start time of the pre-K. It's through a pre-K grant that we apply through to get certification for the program. I have an email into them to see if we can push back the start date and be flexible with that. Yep.
I think that would be a great start.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks
Steph.
for calling.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Stephanie.
Are there any other callers?
Thank you, and thank you all for your work.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else?
We do not, and I would like to make a public apology for anybody, any callers that did not get through. I forgot to do one thing on my end, so I want to publicly apologize for no callers calling in.
No problem. We're getting through it. So
Yes, we've got lots of
different avenue.
So we have a question from Janine Diner at the high school. Please explain the disinfection protocol in the high school. My understanding is that high schoolers will be switching classes for 9 periods each day, that there will be no cleaning of these desks during the day, so they will essentially be sharing desks.
Yeah, in terms of cleaning and disinfection at the high school, it's obviously we don't have the manpower to do it between every period. One of the ideas that we're floating out right now is to have the full cadre of desks, but every other desk has a red dot and a white dot. I want it maroon and gray, but it doesn't look like, it's like that's on back order. With the idea being is that they would be even and odd period desks that students would use, so they wouldn't be following up, a student right away. There is a deep cleaning that would happen at the end of each day, and obviously a major deep cleaning that would happen on Wednesday.
Is there any way we could have like Clorox wipes or something in the classroom? So
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Yes, we are going to have Clorox wipes in the classrooms for the teachers to use if they so choose, and same thing with students if they so choose. So the wipes will be there, if a student, which we absolutely recommend for a student to do that. But obviously we're not making that a requirement that a student has to wipe down a desk, but we would definitely recommend it, and the resources would be there for them to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any more?
That's what the colleges are doing, they're making it clean.
Yeah, they should
That's
do
the
it.
way.
Like to get on a plane, and wipe down your seat.
Right. Amanda Frazier again for dual language. My point was, but she doesn't want me to read it out loud. Okay.
That's not
Okay. Steve Long, comment on pre-K program. As a parent of an East Hampton Rising pre-K student, 2.5 hours is better than nothing. The board said we should have Plan B, but it's August 18th. Most of the private pre-K programs are filled up already. I'm not clear what the chief medical officer's concern is. Can you please clarify? Thank you. Her concern with having pre-K being at the high school.
Number one is the space for the bathrooms. They're not adequate size that way. And I think she is worried about parents moving into the building with their students.
They wouldn't be. They would be walking to the door. The teacher would meet them at the door. They
Will
wouldn't
they use an entrance around back? Is
Yeah,
that
they
what
wouldn't
the
have
other?
to come in the building.
Yeah, they wouldn't. I know that's what's talked about years ago, so.
And
Well, I think years ago we were told we couldn't because of the fire lane again, because we were using the fire lane, but if we're allowing it at the elementary school, maybe they'll give us temporary permission to do it.
Yeah, the Y is, they can't, they should, they drop them off. The P can't back there.
Right, that's good. But I think also, didn't we have to renovate the bathrooms to make the lowers,
Yes, we did.
the lower potties?
It was gonna be here full time, but I mean, listen, if parents are willing to accept some of these things and we can do it, listen, let them have the choice.
Parents would rather have it than not have
Yes.
it. And 2.5 hours is again, it's better than nothing. It's still a lot of time, instructional time that they.
And that's
or
a
nothing.
good point.
Right. Sitting home, I mean, it's also like an economic issue, you have a babysitter half the day instead of the full day if you have to go to work. There are benefits to having it. I could go on.
What do
But
we do with the teachers, though, that
Well,
we
that-
need? How are we gonna have substitutes at the elementary school then? That's the other issue.
we do coverages all the time. I mean, our staff is very flexible in covering each other's classes. And we won't, the ratio will be lower because it's only 9 kids. So we don't need to have those 3 extra paras that we had in pre-K. It's going to be 1 less section. So that's another teacher and another TA. We have TAs in first grade. There's things that we can do.
And if we have like 10 or 12 teachers out sick one day, you just close the school. When you have no subs.
Russell and I will be teaching
Yeah.
class.
And
Everybody be in the gym.
And it's also the middle school.
by
Nice.
running,
It's not just elementary.
I don't think 3 teachers is going to solve our sub problem.
Well, and 3 teachers and 3 TAs. 6,
Maybe not.
6.
Not with that ratio.
but by,
It's shared.
by running only an AM and PM program, we're gonna need half the classrooms. And we're gonna need half the staff we had from last year.
If we're
That frees up those, that half we're not using for subs.
No, because she's increasing first kindergarten and first, taking on 2 more class each. Right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got some issues that are serious.
We got some issues.
But we have.
This is not gonna be easy on any front.
I mean,
Anyone.
yeah, and the other thing is there's no, I mean, listen, I don't know, Keith can tell us more, but I don't think there's money in the budget to hire additional staff, full-time staff, because that's the only way you're gonna get staff. I mean, I think it's gonna be rare, and we'll try to get subs, but,
Just custodial and PPE and all that was blowing $1 million in there.
We're well over $500,000 for COVID related expenses.
Just for that.
And we haven't even, we're starting.
Yeah, but with all the plexiglass and all that stuff, you ever go buy those materials? They're not cheap. We need them and we gotta buy them, and I think it's the right thing to
HVAC
do.
filters
But,
for the
yeah, but-
entire district. We're laying out a lot of money.
Well,
That's the end of it.
we haven't made a
So
decision.
can I just ask a question? Since it's late and we also have additional business, I think can I summarize it, which is, I think that we would ideally like to figure out a way to make pre-K work if it can be done safely. Is that an accurate statement? And can we then have this be, I don't think we're gonna be able to solve this tonight,
No, there's no way. And we don't even know what we're solving because we don't know what we have yet.
So maybe that can continue to have the conversation at, Beth and buildings and everybody else, not tonight. To,
Is there a way you can track registration and pre-K?
yeah, we need to know the registration, everything.
Well, you'll go to a lottery if you go over, right?
I don't know. I don't.
There was a threat of a lottery.
Yeah.
I've been a threat of a lottery with pre-K.
We did that actually.
Yeah.
At Illinois Whitman with the 1 year. We did 52.
Yeah, we didn't have enough space.
We didn't have enough
Yeah.
space.
So, if we cap it now, and then it would just be free.
The people that know and are counting on it would have a space.
Yeah.
And if you didn't do that, well, then that's,
Right.
the planning is part of it.
Right.
Issue. I don't know if you're allowed.
When are we gonna meet again? Don't we have to meet again when we get definite numbers? And when will we get definite numbers?
We're getting definite numbers, hopefully by a week from tomorrow.
And that's in time for our next meeting, probably
Yeah.
anyway, right?
Yeah.
So when is our next meeting?
And
They probably don't have, this
Again,
again, until September. So
We're gonna make
we
an
can have one the
assumption.
last week of
Unless you opt out, you're
Much I don't
coming?
want to, but-
We have September 1st. Well, I think I'd like it.
Adam, am I right? Unless you
As
opt
soon as we
out,
get final numbers, we
You're
really should
you're
have
coming.
some sort of,
Yeah, we have to have a
planning
Very
meeting.
simple.
We should have a meeting, I think,
Right.
before
Yeah.
September.
But we can't
Yeah.
force people
Let's
to
do
come.
one, why don't we do one in 2 weeks, that way then you guys will have the numbers on Wednesday. You can process them that week, and then on that following Tuesday, we could get together. Is that a reasonable amount of time?
No, it is September 1st, that's the.
It is
the
September
actual
1st, so that's the actual meeting. I mean, is that, should be okay?
Yeah, because we don't remember start school until
The
the
9th.
9th, but really
Right,
the
or really the
14th.
14th.
But if we're, but
Because
if
once you
we're,
get final numbers, you're still gonna have, a
but
lot
God
of
forbid
planning.
we have to
Now
not,
then it's really gonna be crunch time for you guys to plan and give us a heads up as to.
but not
what
only that, if we are in a bad position number-wise, and we have to not, God forbid, have a pre-K, that's a real short notice.
Yeah, right.
Or not go to John Marshall 5 days a week. I mean.
But that could be a conversation too.
Growing.
That's could be-
Salvage
I mean, our
pre-K
numbers
might
are
be
growing.
Yeah, letting kids go.
going
See, I don't think
higher.
people understand that part of the conversation either. If our enrollment does go up and there's no date or deadline for people to tell us when they're gonna enroll, and if we want to keep the K through, 5 full day, which I think is very important, we're gonna have, there's just too many what ifs. We just don't know. We just don't know.
We do have one more question
Okay.
from Charlotte Sasso. Have all the positions to replace retired teachers been filled, and when will they be announced? Is Tim Fromm still vice principal, or has he been reassigned to a district role? And I just want to point out that a lot of this has already been, it's in all of our meeting minutes, and we've talked about it. So parents really need to start watching our meetings, reviewing our minutes, because a
Meetings
lot
are
of the
going
questions
up,
that we've
going
been
up.
getting, we have discussed over and over and over
Several
again.
times.
Yeah.
And that's some of the,
Uh,
I know Tim Fromm's not the assistant principal for this year. And he's sitting at our table today. He's gonna be doing our HR position for this year. As we have a lot of HR issues along with our student issues. So, and we have 375 employees roughly,
371 as
371.
of today.
So I don't know too many companies out there that have 371 employees and don't have one person that they can, or one department they can ask questions to. And I think our staff has asked for that. And I think it's also another point of safety. So there's one constant message coming from, one specific office. So no, he will not be there for this year. We'll reevaluate for next year where we're going, because we're having a hard enough time getting through this year. So that's that. And then as far as staff positions, I believe we filled everything that we need to fill.
This is a leave replacement for psychologist,
Elementary school.
elementary school,
Yeah, I mean, normal
Lead
stuff.
Guidance counselor.
which is, we kind of,
Yeah,
but we have a handful.
special ed teacher. Yeah, high school.
All teaching staff at the high school that was.
Okay, so I just want to say, who's the victims and who's the enemy? The enemy is not the parents, the students, the
Right.
administrators,
For us.
the teachers.
Yeah.
We're all victims, and the enemy is the pandemic.
Correct.
Focus on that. Don't start blaming people for
Right.
making the wrong decision. We are all trying to deal with this pandemic as best
Yes,
we
we
can.
can. Thank you, John. I agree.
Very true.
Yes.
So we got 2 more big things to talk about.
Yes.
Frankly.
I know.
And one is the testing site.
Yes.
I have a meeting in 12 hours.
remind you to stay up.
Adam, do you want to start off the testing stuff? I have some input that I'd like to give. But I know you've been speaking with the hospital quite regularly.
Yeah, Southampton Hospital has been a partner with us with a bunch of things as it relates to the mental health awareness and mental health initiatives we've had. So they were an easy go-to when it came to COVID testing for the staff. We've already formed a relationship with them. We have general medical orders for our staff to get tested at any time through appointments there. One of the things that's going on right now is I believe next Tuesday is when the Montauk testing site runs its course, and they need a new location in East Hampton High School. So when we found out about that, Rich and I started the discussion like, hey, maybe we're interested in being a site. Is this something we want to bring to the board? What this would entail would be East Hampton High School. We would find a location. There's obviously the big properties, a lot of places we could do it. We would, it would be 2 days a week. Usually I think it's Tuesday, Thursday.
Yeah, that's what Robert said.
Yeah, well, and I think it's 8 to 4 or something like that.
Yeah.
There's a number of things they need from our facilities to use. One of the things that we all agreed on, I think we spoke in committee with this, with some board members, was the idea of not letting them come in our building, but putting a trailer outside for them to use. They need facilities, obviously. They also need to change their PPE gear. One of the big things to note of this is it's got to be open to the community, but they will test. So they will test our kids. They will test whoever we ask them to test. They will also take samples if our nurses test. So, which we were told by the chief medical officer. Yes. So the chief medical officer at Southampton has indicated that yes, they can test, and yes, we will take their samples at the end of the day.
Was there a fee for us, Adam? I didn't ask Robert that question.
It all goes through all insurance. I do not know, and I guess this is going to be a question later on. If a child contracts COVID here, what's the district's responsibility for copay if the child's or copay if they're insured, or if they're uninsured?
I mean, we can work something out with the hospital.
We have to figure.
I think they'll work with us.
Yes.
They'll work with us.
Yes.
And are these like 24-hour tests, 48-hour tests?
Usually it's 48.
Yeah, I mean, they try to get them at 24. They try, like when they tested. So when I went and tested, when we had our little episode here, it took 24 hours for me. Rich, I think it took a little longer. I think it's because he's way older. And that is it did take a little longer. So, it's really between that 24, 48-hour piece there. I believe they indicated, we talked about the saliva test. I've been informed is like the most accurate, but there's some nuances of not being able to access some of these tests. That's what I've been told. But it would be those type of tests, and our nurses can do it. So that's another discussion. We haven't sat down with the nurses to talk about protocols and procedures with that. And one of the things the hospital did say, these are minors. So if they're going to test, their parents need to bring them over there to wherever we stage it. With our school nurse, it's a little different, and I don't know the consent yet with that and stuff like that. So it's all.
We'll have to figure that out with our legal counsel.
Correct.
And
yes.
We now have a nurse practitioner. One,
yes,
which will be a huge help in that whole. I think RNs can do it. I think now too.
We asked that question. Lower paramedics can do it. Medical. Yeah, so it's like it's even a lower level of medical training. But it all matters of what we're allowed to permit, what we can do, and the first thing would be to say it's okay to establish this on our property. Again, this is the first discussion publicly of this. We really will need to make a decision soon. I would recommend consulting with our attorneys to understand what's going on. Obviously, it took place at Montauk School, so that kind of helps a lot. Know that it's going to be possible. We're going to be able to do
a couple of things that ran through my mind, because Robert called me at 4:20 as I was trying to go home and change and come here.
Yeah.
And, I think they're looking for some sort of hey, listen, will we consider it? I don't know if we necessarily need to give them a solid green light, but can we start to pursue this option? I would like to get the board's opinion on it. I mean, I support it. I told him already I do because it makes sense. Jackie and I have had a conversation a little bit on the side of testing. And, if we can have a consistent testing model here, it's huge for our kids. It's huge for our community. And the first thing that came to my mind is we have space because what we could do is we can put it out back on Cedar Street. There's those piles of dirt back there that need to go, move them out, put a little parking lot in there. That way it's on our property, but it's away from our students, it's safe. And you need internet, you need some sort of water and electric is what we're gonna need. So it's all, as far as I know, it's all back there. If you need to get in there, you will.
Generator.
Yeah, you can do a generator, you can do.
And the
tap
I'm
into
concerned
building.
about it. We tried to put it up front here, and we already have so much traffic issues with
Yeah.
high school young drivers in and out, and then you're
Well,
gonna have the
and we
community
had
coming in
to, I
and out the front.
suppose, but I think that we have, and we're not using that property for its full potential. There's dirt piles that need to go. So if we can get those out of there, I think that's great.
They would follow- they have a few
And it's not
parameters.
every, it's 2 days a week.
And they drive, they want to make sure cars can drive through.
Yeah, it's a drive, and they put the 10.
It's a really, I've been to it twice. It's a really easy situation that they've had at the Montage School where you drive in, they've got the tent, they've got their desk set up and you just do it. And it's fast and it's simple. We could be able to do that
What was the
easily.
turnaround time, do you know?
It could have even been 36 hours,
Okay.
at least for.
And that's pretty quick.
It's great.
It's pretty quick. And Southampton has their own lab, right? Southampton's doing this with their own
Yes,
lab,
they are.
which is a huge advantage. They're not sending it like
Yes.
to go
Right.
there.
And again, our school position is very favorable to that,
Yes.
the quality of
That
tests being
Yeah,
used.
no, I think
I'd
that's.
say, you have to make a motion or what? I say,
No,
go,
I'm calling tomorrow, she's gonna come look at the site as soon as I call her.
I say go,
Yeah.
you know, go.
I mean, I think it's just such a benefit for our entire community, our school community, and our larger community for sure.
Just, we've done so much for our mental health, right? Now it's like,
We minimize the traffic and traffic.
Yeah, exactly. Traffic
It's
and,
dangerous anyway.
Yeah.
Up front.
yeah.
We'll get involved with the police.
and I think that if we put it out there, you can make it easy and inexpensive. And you know what? If it's there for a longer term, I mean, I don't know how long term it's gonna be, but it's not in our way. You know what I mean? It's not in our way. So
Hopefully shorter.
that's the one thing, and I'm sorry, Carrie, I don't add things to new business. I can see you looking at me through the camera.
Glazing over.
But the other one is our open board seat, which we know we now have. So it's gonna be a larger conversation than we're talking about tonight, but I just want to give the public some sort of a view as what we're looking to do or not do. Everybody has an opinion on this, and it's already 9:21. So we can discuss this at our next board meeting, I believe, but I just want to let people know that it's there, it's open, as you can see from tonight's board minutes. I know we'll ask the same question.
I would recommend too, at that meeting, we're gonna have our legal attorney.
Yes.
So he could give the options that the board
And
has.
we've been through this a
We've
couple
been through
times.
this a couple of
Yeah,
times too,
but
so.
Just so
I think
we're
we don't
all
wanna
on the
run
same
an
page.
election.
No.
No, I don't think it's feasible at this point.
We don't even know if it'd be
It's
allowed.
expensive.
Yeah.
We can't-
It's expensive, it's
Right.
maybe not even an option. I don't know, but we do
can't
have
do
a,
it in person right now.
and you know, listen, we've done it before with 6, it can go with 6, but I think the overall board consensus should be taken in. I think the public's consensus should be heard. And you know, if people are interested in doing this, it's something that they should sort of put their ear to the ground. And you know, if you know a board member and you want to ask a question, I think that's totally legitimate to do. But at the same time, you know, somebody should prepare to run in the spring at the very least, in May. And you know, Christina's here today. Maybe she'll be gone in the spring.
My last term.
So yeah, so I mean that's up to you, but there could potentially be 2 seats open going forward for next year, which is a pretty big change.
How long is Wendy hearing seat up in this?
Not this year, next 2 years. I'm on the same
Mine is the only
timeline.
one that would be out.
This year.
Yeah, I went into the same timeline as me, which is me, Wendy, and is it Sandy? You're on the same one as us? You on the same one as us?
This is my,
This is your second
my
year.
second year.
Yeah, so
I'm
you're,
with you. I'm
so
with you.
you're, yeah.
One
Oh,
year,
you're with me.
Yeah.
one year there has to be 3.
Yeah, that's me, Wendy, and Sandy. Wendy.
Sarah's up on, next year.
Yep.
Okay, so, all right, so well, you know, there's one, so there you go. But now there's gonna be one running for Wendy's empty seat regardless. Because the next election, that will be up. Christina, if she chooses not to run, there's that seat. So, you know, listen, I encourage some parents because honestly, I'm no longer a parent. That's why Christina's getting done. I'll probably be done in the 2 years. Christina's no longer a parent. You know, we could use a little parent representation. I'm not saying that it has to be that, but if you're a parent and have a lot of questions when you call into our board meeting, maybe you should be sitting here. I don't know, just saying. So,
Fresh blood.
yeah, it's time. Anything else? Anybody else want to say anything, or are we good?
I mean, yeah, I'm good. I think that how are we asking people to give feedback on it, or we're just gonna discuss it?
I'm just kind of going on the table to see where we are. Or do you want to wait?
You know what? I think that, it's 9:24. Maybe if we could do it in, I mean, it doesn't matter to me. We could sign off and do this at our next board meeting. I think something's gonna happen between now and then.
We're not going to do anything right away, so let's think about the next board meeting. You okay with that?
I mean, maybe what we could do is invite, I think we all have our ideas about what we want to do. And I think the community who's watching, sure it'll be in the press, can feel free to send us their opinion.
I mean, that's a great idea.
Agreed.
Good. Perfect. Other than that, do we have anything else, Rich?
Just one thing, just in terms of student enrollment update, I just want to be very clear that, we do have about 53 new registrations, and there are well over probably close to 150 inquiries. So these models would really change, especially at
Most
the
of those
elementary
are at
school
the
level.
elementary school, but some in the middle school.
What is the distribution?
The distribution is probably 90% of the elementary school. So, it is, and, I think, quite honestly, the attractiveness of our program and all the thought, our the process, is people eager.
And that's good. We should be proud of that. We're proud of that. So there's a lot to be proud of. The conversation that we're having about our pre-K, about our dual language, about all those things that we've done. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. But that's it.
That's
Okay. Anybody else have anything before we close? Have a motion to close the meeting?
Make a motion.
Second?
Second.
On favor? Any opposed? No?
Christina.
Adam.